The day your life ends and begins starts not with a declaration of war, but with the scent of expensive, cloying incense. It's a smell you've never encountered in your family's modest samurai-class home. It's the smell of power, your mother and 2 aunts, women you've only ever seen in practical. Dark-colored kimonos are fussing over you with silks the color of dawn and sunset. The fabric is heavy, impossibly smooth against your skin, and you feel less like you're getting dressed and more like you're being packaged. Every fold, every knot in the wide, stiff obi around your waist is a reminder that this is not for you. This is for them, the men who are coming to visit. You sit, perfectly still, as your face is coated in a thick layer of white paste. Your own features the mole by your lip. The faint scar on your brow from a childhood fall vanish under the mask of a perfect, anonymous beauty. Your eyebrows are plucked and redrawn higher on your forehead, giving you an expression of perpetual, placid surprise. Your lips are painted into a small, red bud. You are a doll, a work of art to be admired from a distance. Your father enters the room. He avoids looking you in the eye. He speaks of honor, of duty to the clan, of the great privilege it is to be noticed by the lord of the province. His voice is steady, but you can see the tremor in his hand as he adjusts a fold in your sleeve. This is his masterpiece, his greatest strategic move. He is a man of modest strength and meager lands. You are his living, breathing peace treaty, his bid for relevance. He is trading his daughter for security, and he is trying to convince both you and himself that it is a noble sacrifice. The guests arrive. You don't see them. Not at first. You hear them. The low rumble of male voices from the main hall. The formal, stilted laughter. You are kept hidden until the precise moment. Then, you are led to the room, your steps tiny and shuffling in the restrictive kimono. You kneel just outside the screen, a delicate bamboo UDR that separates you from them. You are an exhibit. Through the gaps, you see shadows, silhouettes. One is larger, more imposing. That must be him, the Lord. He doesn't speak to you. He speaks about you, to your father. He asks about your education, your skill in poetry, your health. You are discussed like a prize horse. Your bloodline and temperament, assessed for their potential. You are instructed to perform a single task, to prepare tea. Your hands, which you've trained for years to be steady, feel like they belong to someone else. You lift a bamboo whisk, your movements fluid, practiced, a perfect, empty pantomime of grace. Every person in that room knows this isn't about tea. It's a test of your composure, your obedience. It's an inspection. This is the cold reality of the system. This meeting, which might be mistaken for a kind of genteel courtship, is a political transaction. The Lord isn't looking for a partner. He's looking for a vessel. A healthy, well-bred young woman from a respectable family who can produce a male heir without causing political complications. This is a mainstream historical fact, the foundation of power structures in feudal Japan. Concubines, or sokushitsu, were essential tools for ensuring a lord's lineage, forging alliances, and consolidating power. Your feelings are not part of the equation. Here's a detail they don't often show in the movies. The Lord might not even properly see your face during this entire encounter. The decision is rarely made based on a flash of romantic connection. It's a calculated choice based on the reports of his advisors, your family status, and perhaps even the auspicious reading of your birth date. This whole affair is intentionally impersonal. It's a strange, formal dance designed to prevent any messy, unpredictable human emotion from interfering with statecraft. The Lord leaves without giving a single sign of his decision. He and his retinue depart, leaving behind only the lingering, foreign scent of that expensive incense. The silence that descends upon your house is heavier than the previous noise. Your father's face is a mask of anxious hope. Did it work? Was the offering accepted? Historians to this day debate the agency of women in your position. Were you purely a pawn, a silent sacrifice on the altar of your family's ambition? Or, as you sit there, the white paint on your face starting to crack, do you feel a tiny, terrifying flicker of something else? The cold understanding that this might be the only way for you. as a woman, to ever step out of the shadows and onto the board of the great game. You don't know the answer. All you know is that you are no longer the girl you were this morning. You are now an object, waiting to be claimed. The wait is a unique form of torment. For 3 days, your home is suspended in a state of suspended animation. No one speaks of the visit. Your mother goes about her duties with a brittle, forced composure. Your father spends long hours staring at the garden, his back rigid. You are kept in a state of readiness, dressed each day in fine, but slightly less formal silks, your face powdered, your hair intricately pinned. You are a gift that cannot be unwrapped, sitting on a shelf, waiting to see if the buyer will come back to collect. You eat little. Sleep comes in fragmented, anxious bursts. In those moments, you aren't thinking of power or influence. You're just a girl, terrified of being taken from everything you've ever known. On the 4th day, a small, unassuming procession arrives. It's not the Lord himself, but one of his senior chamberlains, a man with a face like a dried persimmon, all wrinkles and impassive judgment. He doesn't enter the house. He stands in the entryway, reads from a scroll in a flat, monotone voice, and the transaction is formally announced. You have been accepted into the Lord's household. You are to be prepared to leave at dawn on the morrow. There is no applause, no joyful celebration. There is only a series of deep, formal bows. The chamberlain turns and leaves. The scroll he read is handed to your father. Your bill of sale. Your final evening is a blur of silent activity. Your few personal belongings a worn-out poetry book. A set of combs carved by your grandfather are not packed. You are told you will be provided with everything you need. You are to bring nothing of your old life with you. This is a core part of the process, a well-documented historical practice. When a woman entered a lord's service as a concubine, she underwent a social and symbolic death. She was severed from her natal family. Her name might even be changed. Her primary identity, her legal and social standing, was now entirely dependent on her new household. You are no longer your father's daughter in the same way. You are your lord's woman. Your mother comes to you as you sit alone, looking out at the moonlit garden for the last time. She doesn't say "I love you" or "I'll miss you." Such overt displays of affection are considered unseemly, lacking in decorum. Instead, she presses something small and hard into your palm. You look down. It's a tiny, smooth stone from the river behind your house, a stone you used to skip across the water as a child. She closes your fingers around it. "For good fortune," she whispers, her voice a thread of sound in the darkness. Her eyes meet yours for a fleeting second, and in them, you see a universe of unspoken grief. This is the kind of quiet, desperate act you won't read about in official chronicles. These small talismans, a hidden stone, a secret prayer, a thread from a mother's loom sewn into a seam, these were the tiny, personal rebellions against a system that sought to erase them. It was a way of smuggling a piece of one's soul past the guards. Your father summons you for a final audience. He doesn't offer comfort. He offers strategy. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not show your intellect, only your compliance. Do not make friends. Do not make enemies. Your purpose is singular, to bear the Lord as son. All else is a distraction. Do not dishonor our family. He is a general sending his last soldier into a hopeless battle, and his words are the only armor he can give you. The moment of departure is cold and impersonal. As dawn breaks, you are escorted from your home not by your family, but by 2 grim-faced women from the Lord's castle and a handful of armed guards. Your family stands at the threshold, bowing formally. Your mother's face is a pale, emotional as mask. Your father's eyes are fixed on the ground. Your younger brother, too young to understand the finality of it all, starts to run towards you, but your hand holds him back. He is the only one who looks confused, the only one whose expression isn't perfectly controlled. You are placed inside a kayago, a small, enclosed palanquin. It's a cramped, swaying box, and through the tiny slatted window, you watch your home, your family, your entire world, shrink until it is just a shape against the morning sky, and then it is gone. You are completely and utterly alone, surrounded by strangers who see you not as a person, but as precious cargo. You clutch the small stone in your hand, its coolness a faint, grounding presence in the overwhelming darkness of the pale noon. Historians and sociologists still argue about the inner lives of women like you. Was this moment a source of deep trauma and a feeling of betrayal? Or was this role so deeply ingrained in the culture, so thoroughly accepted as a woman's duty and, in a way, her highest possible honor, that you accepted your fate with a sense of purpose? The truth is likely a messy, uncomfortable tangle of both. You are a daughter of your time, raised on stories of duty and sacrifice. You understand the cold logic of the transaction, but in the suffocating darkness of this box, as it sways and jolts you toward a future you cannot see, you also feel a profound and terrifying sense of loss. You have been traded, your freedom, your identity, your very body, for the abstract concept of your family's future. And as the journey begins, you can't help but wonder if they got a good deal. The journey is intentionally disorienting. You're not told how long it will take or the exact route. The shutters on your palanquin remain closed. The world becomes a series of muffled sounds. The rhythmic crunch of gravel under the guard's sandals, the straying grunts of the porters carrying you, the distant cry of a hawk. It's a deliberate psychological tactic. By the time you arrive, you are meant to be unmoored from your past, a blank slate ready for a new inscription. You lose track of time. Is it the second day? The third? You only know the difference between day and night by the subtle change in the air's temperature inside your wooden cocoon. When the pale noon finally stops, the sudden stillness is more jarring than the motion. The door slides open, and the light is so blindingly bright that you have to shield your eyes. You are not in a grand courtyard, but in a small, severe-looking antechamber. The women who escorted you, their faces as stern as ever, help you out. Your legs are stiff. Your body aches. Before you can even get your bearings, you are laid into a side room. Your fine traveling kimono, the last physical link to your family home, is unceremoniously taken from you. You are bathed. Not a gentle, soothing bath, but a functional, almost clinical scrubbing. The two women, your new attendants, speak to you for the first time. Their words clipped and instructional. Lift your arm. Turn. They inspect your body with a detached scrutiny that makes you feel like an object on display. They are checking for blemishes, scars, any imperfection that might have been missed. Your body is no longer your own private space. It is now the property of the clan, and it must be catalogued and maintained like any other valuable asset. This is a crucial and historically documented step in the process. You are being ritualistically cleansed of your past life, prepared for your new role. After the bath, you are dressed in a simple, white underkimono. On the day you began, you are given a new name. From this day, you will be known as Ket. One of the women states, not unkindly, but with absolute finality. Maple Leaf. It's a pretty name, a poetic name. It is also not your name. The girl who loved to skip stones by the river, the girl who had a favorite poetry book, she effectively ceases to exist in this moment. The erasure is almost complete. Historians debate whether these new names were chosen at random, or if they were selected for specific symbolic meanings, intended to please the Lord, or reflected desired quality, like grace or fortitude. You are then left alone in a small, featureless room. The walls are bare paper screens. The floor is tatami matting. There is nothing to look at, nothing to do. This period of isolation could last for days, sometimes even weeks. It's a form of psychological conditioning. You are being taught patience, stillness, and the art of waiting. Your life, from now on, will be defined by waiting. Waiting to be summoned, waiting for favor, waiting for a child. This room is your first lesson. During this time, your meals are brought to you by a silent servant who bows and leaves without a word. The food is simple, bland. It is nourishment, nothing more. You are being systematically stripped of all sensory pleasures, all distractions. This process, known as koshimaki, or girding the loins, was not just about control. It was also seen as a period of purification. You had to be made worthy of entering the Lord's presence. Here's a small, strange detail from this period of transition. You might be given texts to study, but not poetry or literature. You might be given copies of Confucian classics emphasizing loyalty and obedience, or even illustrated manuals depicting proper court etiquette in excruciating detail. Some accounts even mention medical texts about fertility and conception. There was no romance in this education. It was a vocational training program for the single. All-important job you were brought here to do. You spend the days sitting, just sitting. At first, your mind races. You think of your family. You clutch the stone in your sleeve. You feel waves of panic and despair. But after a few days of absolute monotony, something shifts. Your mind begins to quiet down. You start noticing things you never would have before. The way the light changes on the paper screen throughout the day. The faint sound of a cricket outside your room at night. The subtle pattern in the weave of the tatami. You are being broken down. Yes, but you are also being rebuilt. You are learning to find a world within a single room. You are learning to be self-contained. This is the most dangerous part of the process. The moment where the line between submission and self-possession blurs. Are you being successfully brainwashed, molded into the perfect, pliant concubine, or are you, out of sheer necessity, forging a new kind of inner strength, a resilience born not of passion or rebellion, but of quiet, disciplined observation? You are learning that your old self, the impulsive, free-spirited girl, cannot survive here. To fight this system head-on would be suicide. But perhaps, just perhaps, another self can. A quieter, more patient, more watchful self could. The maple leaf, eternal beauty. Yes, but one that knows how to bend with the wind and how to wait for its season to turn. You don't know it yet, but this period of forced nothingness is your true first lesson in the art of survival. You are being emptied so that you can be filled with a new purpose. Your isolation ends as abruptly as it began. One morning, the two stern attendants enter your room, but this time, their demeanor is different. There is a new sense of purpose in their movements. Today, your real education begins. You are led out of your small, white room and into a series of chambers teeming with quiet, focused activity. This is the domain of the women in waiting, the nerve center of your new life. You are not being trained for a battle of swords, but for a war of subtleties. The weapons you must master are not made of steel. Your first lesson is in movement. You are taught how to walk, not the way you walked at home, with a natural, youthful stride. Here, you must learn the sliding foot, or suri's high, a way of gliding across the tatami floors without lifting your feet, your body held perfectly erect. It's a movement designed for the heavy, restrictive layers of the formal court, kimono. It is graceful, yes, but it is also confining. It forces you to be slow, deliberate, to never make a sudden or unseemly gesture. Your body is being disciplined, turned into an instrument of perfect decorum. Then comes the voice. You are taught how to speak, not what to say that will come later but how. Your natural voice is too loud, too direct. You practice speaking in a higher pitch, a softer tone, with a precise, formal vocabulary that is entirely different from the dialect of your home province. You learn the intricate grammar of humility and respect, a language where you are always lowering yourself and elevating the person you are addressing. You spend hours reciting classical poems, not for their meaning, but for their cadence, learning to control your breath so your words flow like a gentle stream. Your primary instructor is a woman named Lady Kyo. She is older, perhaps in her late 40s, with a face that seems carved from ivory. She was once a concubine herself, one who failed to produce an heir and has now settled into this respectable, but ultimately powerless, role as a tutor. Her eyes hold no warmth, only a deep, weary pragmatism. She is the embodiment of what happens when you play the game and only achieve a stalemate. The Lord has no time for a woman's thoughts. She tells you one afternoon. Her voice is crisp as a dry leaf. He has time for a woman's beauty, a woman's grace, and a woman's comfort. Your mind is a tool for achieving these things, not a treasure to be shared. Remember that. This is the core, mainstream understanding of your education. You are learning the arts calligraphy, the tea ceremony Chanowayu, flower arranging the Hikibana, and how to play the kodo, the long strings either. But Lady Kyo makes it brutally clear that these are not hobbies. They are your arsenal. Calligraphy is not just about beautiful writing. It's about showing your refined taste and discipline in the notes you might one day be permitted to send. The tea ceremony is not about enjoying tea. It's a performance of tranquility and precision, a way to create a temporary island of calm for a powerful man burdened by affairs of state. Here's a peculiar detail. Your training in the kodo is particularly rigorous. Why? Because music was one of the few acceptable ways for a woman to be present without being intrusive. You could play from behind a screen, your music filling the room, creating an atmosphere, influencing the mood of the lord and his guests without ever showing your face or speaking a word. It was seduction by proxy. You learned songs of nature, of ancient heroes, of tragic love. The irony is not lost on you that you must master the art of singing about a passion you are forbidden to ever feel. Lady Kyo's lessons extend to more practical and more cynical matters. She teaches you how to interpret the rustle of a silk kimono down a hallway. Is it a rival, a servant, or the powerful head lady in waiting? She teaches you how to listen to silences, to understand the meaning in what is not said in a conversation. She teaches you the art of the compliment, how a carefully worded praise of a rival's new hairpin can be, in the right context, a subtle act of aggression, pointing out her ostentatiousness to others. The historical debate here is rich. Were these finishing schools for concubines purely about creating docile, pleasing companions? Or were they, in a way, the era's equivalent of a political science and espionage academy for women? Some historians argue that by teaching you these skills, the system was inadvertently arming you. It taught you how to read people, how to manipulate emotions, how to communicate in code, and how to operate within a rigid power structure. These were the very skills a successful politician or spy would need. A system intended to make you a beautiful object, that it was also giving you the tools to become a cunning operator. One day, Lady Kyo has you practice your calligraphy. You are writing a poem about the loneliness of autumn. Your brush strokes are clean. Your form is perfect. She watches you for a long moment. Your technique is flawless, she says, her voice flat, but it has no heart. You look up, confused. That is good, she continues, turning away. Heart is a liability here. Keep it that way. In that moment, you understand. You are not just learning how to use your weapons. You are learning how to do so without leaving any of your own fingerprints on them. You are learning to be a ghost, a presence that can influence everything while remaining yourself, unseen and untouched. After weeks of relentless training in the cloistered world of your tutors, the day comes when you are finally deemed ready to enter the main stage, the Ōoku, or the Great Interior. In other castles, it might be called the Golden or another name, but the function is the same. It is the women's quarters, the vast, sprawling labyrinth of corridors, chambers, and gardens, exclusively inhabited by women and, on occasion, the Lord himself. No other man is permitted to enter, on pain of death. It is a world sealed off from the outside, a city of women within the castle walls. The transition is dark. You step through a heavily guarded gate, the final checkpoint, and the air itself seems to change. The stern, masculine energy of the outer castle, with its samurai guards and stern officials, evaporates. It is replaced by something far more complex and, in its own way, more intimidating. The air is thick with the scent of silk, incense, and flowers, but underneath it all, you sense a current of tension, a low hum of unspoken competition. You are led down a polished wooden corridor, so long and straight it feels like a path to infinity. The paper screens on either side are painted with serene landscapes, cranes, pines, misty mountains, but the serenity is a lie. You can feel eyes on you, from behind the screens, from shadowy corners. from groups of women who fall silent as you pass. You are being watched. Your walk, your posture, the way you hold your head, every detail you practiced is being judged. These women are your future rivals, galleys, and jailers. They are the audience for the performance of your life. Your new quarters are modest, but far more luxurious than your previous cell. You have a small, private room with a painted screen and a single vase, in which a perfect white camellia has been placed. You have two new junior attendants assigned to you. Young girls who bow so low, their heads almost touch the floor. They are your hands and feet, but you know from Lady Kehoe's warnings that they are also potential spies. Their loyalty is not to you, but to the powerful figures who oversee the Ōoku. This vast women's world was a historical reality in the castles of daimyo and the shogun. The Ōoku of Edo Castle, for instance, at its peak housed thousands of women. It was a meticulously organized society with its own rigid hierarchy, rules, and economy. It was a self-contained universe, designed to serve the lord and produce his heirs. But it inevitably evolved into a formidable political power in its own right. On your first evening, you witnessed the hierarchy in action. The women gather for the evening meal, not in one great hall, but in a series of rooms according to their rank. At the top of the pyramid is the lord's official wife, the Midoi-sama, a woman from a powerful family whose marriage was a major political alliance. She occupies the most lavish quarters and commands the most respect. Then come the senior concubines, women like yourself, but who have been here longer, and most importantly, those who have already borne children. They have their own factions, their own favorite attendants, their own subtle ways of displaying their status, the quality of their kimono, the number of attendants they have, the proximity of their seats to the head of the room. Below them are the ranks of ladies-in-waiting, tutors, and high-ranking servants, all with their own pecking orders. At the very bottom are the newest arrivals like you, and the countless maids and menial laborers who keep this whole elaborate machine running. You are placed at a low table, near the back. The food is exquisite, served on delicate lacquerware, but you can barely taste it. You are too busy watching, listening, trying to absorb the complex web of relationships. A strange and little-known aspect of this world is the elaborate system of communication. Since direct confrontation was considered vulgar and dangerous, a whole symbolic language developed. The way a flower was arranged in a vase could be a message. A misplaced fan could be a warning. Even the choice of pattern on a kimono could be a statement. If a rival suddenly starts wearing a pattern of crashing waves, is she signaling her own turbulent emotions? Or is she wishing a stormy fate upon you? It was a world of paranoia and poetry, where every detail was potentially laden with meaning. You make a small, clumsy mistake. When a high-ranking lady in waiting passes your table, you meet her eyes and offer a small, hesitant smile, a gesture of good what you were taught at home. The woman's face doesn't even flicker. She looks through you as if you are a ghost. A moment later, the attendant next to you whispers, so softly you can barely hear it, "Do not presume familiarity. You have not earned the right to smile at her." The rebuke is swift, quiet, and utterly humiliating. You feel your face burn with shame. Less unlearned, historians argue about the nature of relationships within the Ōoku. Was it a viper's nest of constant, venomous jealousy, as popular stories love to portray? Or were there genuine friendships and strong alliances forged out of shared circumstances and mutual support? The answer, as always, is probably both. There was undoubtedly vicious competition, especially for the ultimate prize of bearing an heir. But there are also records of lifelong sisterhoods, of women protecting each other, raising their children together, and finding solace in their shared confinement. As you sit there, invisible and insignificant at your lowly table, you feel a profound sense of being adrift in a vast, deep ocean. The painted cranes on the screens seem to mock you with their frozen grace. They are beautiful, but they are trapped within the frame. Just as you are trapped within these walls, you are no longer just an individual. You are a rank, a position, a potential threat. You have successfully entered the city of women. Now, The real challenge begins, learning to navigate its treacherous currents without drowning. Your first few weeks in the Ōoku, you are a masterclass in observation. You follow Lady Kyo's advice to the letter. You strive to be invisible. You keep your eyes downcast, your voice soft, your movements economical. You are a shadow, a whisper, a blank space. This is not cowardice, it is reconnaissance. You are drawing a map of your new world, a chart of its treacherous political geography. Your primary tool is listening. You learn to filter the constant, low-level hum of activity around you. You sit in your small room, pretending to practice your calligraphy, but your ears are tuned to the hallway. You learn to distinguish the shuffling footsteps of the elderly servant from the confident glide of a senior concubine. You listen to the conversations of your young attendants as they gossip while they fold your kimonos, piecing together fragments of information. Who is in favor? Who has been reprimanded? Who received a gift from the Lord? Who is rumored to be ill? This stream of seemingly trivial information is the lifeblood of the Ōoku. It tells you where the power is flowing. You begin to put names and faces to the power structure. There is Lady Kiko, the Lord's senior concubine, a woman of sharp intelligence who has borne him two daughters. She commands respect, but you can sense a quiet desperation behind her serene facade. A daughter solidifies your position, but only a son can truly win the game. She is powerful, but vulnerable. Then there is Lady Yumiko, younger, more vivacious, the Lord's current favorite. She is bold, sometimes to the point of arrogance, flaunting the expensive silks and intricate hairpins he gives her. The other women watch her with a mixture of envy and contempt. She is a target. Her high-flying status makes her precarious. A single misstep, a moment of lost favor, and she will fall. And overseeing everything is the true, quiet power in this domain. The head lady in waiting, the Otoshimono. Her name is Lady Shima. She is a woman of indeterminate age, who has served in the Ōoku for decades. She is not a concubine and has no romantic connection to the Lord. Her power comes from her unimpeachable competence and her absolute control over the day-to-day operations of this world. She manages the staff, the supplies, the budget, and, most importantly, the schedule. She decides who sees the Lord and when. Gaining her favor is arguably more important than gaining the Lord's, because she is the gatekeeper. She sees everything, knows everything, and her face betrays nothing. This intricate, female-dominated hierarchy is a key historical feature of these institutions. While the Lord was the theoretical center of this universe, in practice, his influence on its internal politics could be minimal. The Otoshimono and senior concubines ran the show. This created a unique power dynamic where women wielded immense authority, but only within their gilded cage. You start to map out the alliances and rivalries. Lady Kiko, the older concubine, seems to have a respectful, working relationship with Lady Shima. They are the old guard, favoring stability and tradition. Lady Yumiko, the current favorite, is an outsider. She relies solely on the Lord's affection, and has few allies within the power structure. You see the other, lower-ranking women aligning themselves with one of these factions, hoping to ride their coattails to greater influence. Here's a small, curious detail about navigating this world. The importance of gift-giving. It was a constant, subtle dance. You couldn't give a gift that was too expensive, as it would seem presumptuous. You couldn't give one that was too cheap, as it would be insulting. The perfect gift was something thoughtful, personal, and appropriate to the recipient's rank. It could be a small sachet of rare incense you managed to acquire, a piece of hand-made paper for writing, or even a particularly delicious sweet you bribed a kitchen maid to procure for you. These small offerings were not about friendship. They were about building a network of obligation, about placing a tiny weight on the scales of favor. You have nothing to give yet, so you can only watch and learn. You learn the map is not just about people, but about places. There are certain corridors you are not permitted to use, certain gardens reserved for high-ranking women. There is a specific tea house where Lady Kirko and her allies gather. There is a particular bridge over the Koi pond where Lady Yumiko likes to walk, to be seen by the Lord if he happens to be passing by. The space itself is coated with power. There's a continuing debate among historians. How much of this political maneuvering was officially sanctioned, and how much was an organic, emergent property of the system? Some argue the entire structure, with its built-in competition, was a deliberate design by the ruling men to keep the women divided and prevent them from uniting to form a single, powerful bloc. Others contend that this is giving the architects too much credit, and that any large group of confined, ambitious people would inevitably develop such complex social structures on their own. You begin your own tiny strategic moves. You learn the name of the servant who brings the tea. You compliment her on the way she pours it. You ask one of your attendants about her sick mother. You are not trying to make friends. You are gathering intelligence and building a base of minor, almost invisible goodwill. You are learning the terrain, identifying the key players, and figuring out the rules of engagement. You are still a pawn on this vast, intricate board, but for the first time, you are beginning to see the whole game, and you understand that in this place, knowledge is not just power, it is the prerequisite for survival. You've mapped the terrain, you've identified the players, and now you begin to understand the brutal, simple economy of your new reality. In the outside world, currency is rice and gold. Here, in the Ōoku, the only currency that matters is the Lord's favor. It is the measure of all things. It dictates the quality of the silk you wear, the number of attendants you are assigned, the size of your rooms, and the deference you receive from others. Without it, you are nothing. This concept of grace or favor go choa I is the central pillar of your existence. It's a mainstream historical principle, fundamental to understanding court life. A woman's standing was not fixed. It was a fluctuating stock price, rising and falling with the whims of a single man. And you are about to learn just how volatile that market can be. You start to notice the subtle indicators of this economy. When Lady Yumiko is in high favor, she receives gifts directly from the Lord, a roll of rare brocade from the capital, a new set of ornamental cones. These are not private tokens of affection. They are delivered with ceremony, displayed publicly, and recorded by the chamberlains. They are a public announcement of her rising stock. The other women watch, their faces impassive, but you can feel the envy radiating off them like heat. Conversely, you see what happens when favor wanes. A few weeks ago, a mid-ranking concubine named Lady Fuji was summoned by the Lord to nights in a row. For a brief period, she walked with a new confidence. Her attendants were given better cuts of fish at dinner. She was invited to a private poetry reading with Lady Kiko. Then, for reasons no one can ascertain, the summons stopped. The Lord's gaze passed over her at public gatherings. Suddenly, the extra portion of fish disappeared. She was forgotten when invitations to a flower viewing party were sent out. Her decline was as swift and silent as her ascent. Now she sits at meals, a ghost in fine silks, a living reminder of how quickly your value can plummet. You experience this economy firsthand in small, humiliating ways. As a new arrival with no connection to the Lord, you are at the bottom. Your kimonos are beautiful by any normal standard, but here they are plain. They are made of good silk, but not the finest brocade. Your meals are adequate, but you can smell the more fragrant, richer dishes being carried to the chambers of the senior ladies. You are living proof that in the Ōoku, all are not created equal. A strange and often overlooked aspect of this economy was its effect on the women's families outside the walls. Your family's fortunes are now directly tied to your own. If you receive the Lord's favor, your father might be given a more prestigious administrative post. Your brother might receive a favorable military assignment. Gifts of money and rice might be sent to your ancestral home. You are not just fighting for yourself. You are the designated champion for your entire clan. This immense pressure adds another layer of desperation to the competition. A misstep on your part doesn't just lead to your own downfall. It could spell ruin for everyone you left behind. One afternoon, you are practicing your koto in a designated music room. The melody is a simple folk song from your home province, a tune you play for your own comfort. Thinking no one is listening, suddenly, you sense a presence. You look up. The Lord is standing in the doorway of the garden, flanked by 2 advisors. He has been listening. Your heart leaps into your throat. Your mind goes blank. All of Lady Kyo's training, all your careful observations, evaporate in a wave of pure panic. He doesn't look at you directly. He speaks to one of his advisors. The tune is rustic, a refreshing change, and then he is gone. The encounter lasted no more than 10 seconds. But in the Ōoku, 10 seconds is an eternity. News travels faster than fire. By the time you return to your room, your attendants are looking at you with a new, speculative light in their eyes. At the evening meal, Lady Shima, the formidable head lady-in-waiting, gives you a slow, deliberate nod of acknowledgement. It is the first time she has ever truly looked at you. Lady Yumiko, the favorite, shoots you a glance that is pure, undisguised venom. Lady Kiko, the senior concubine, watches you with a cool, calculating expression. You have not been given a gift. You have not been summoned. You have merely been noticed. But in this world, being noticed is the initial public offering. Your stock, previously worthless, has just appeared on the market. The academic debate here is fascinating. Did the lords consciously use this system of favor as a management tool, deliberately keeping the women off balance and competing with one another to maintain control? Or were they, too, trapped in the system, their personal affections and attentions instantly politicized and magnified by the intense, hermetically sealed environment of the Ōoku? Were they puppet masters, or simply the central, often oblivious, object around which the real game was played by the women themselves? That night, you can't sleep. You lie on your futon, staring into the darkness, your mind racing. The Lord's words echo in your head. Rustic. Was it a compliment or a subtle insult? A refreshing change. A change from what? From the cloying sophistication of the court, from the practiced perfection of the other women. You have no way of knowing. You have just taken your first step onto the battlefield, and you did it by accident. You clutched the small, smooth stone from your mother, hidden in your sleeve. It feels colder tonight. Your brief moment in the sun has cast a very long shadow, and for the first time, you can feel the chill of other women's jealousy. The summons comes 3 nights later. It is not delivered with fanfare or a written scroll. Lady Shima, the head lady-in-waiting, appears at your door herself after the evening meal. This in itself is a significant honor. She doesn't smile. Her face is, as always, an unreadable mask. The Lord requires your presence tonight, she says, her voice flattened, devoid of any emotion. Prepare yourself. She turns and glides away before you can even manage a reply. Panic, cold and sharp, washes over you. This is it. The moment your entire existence here has been building towards. Your 2 young attendants, who clearly heard the news, burst into a flurry of controlled, professional activity. Their earlier gossip and sidelong glances are gone, replaced by a deep, almost religious solemnity. This is the most important ritual in the Ōoku, and they are its junior priestesses. You are bathed again, this time in water scented with iris roots and fragrant herbs. Your skin is scrubbed until it glows. Your hair, long and black, is washed, scented with incense, and then combed out into a shimmering sheet that falls down your back. It is left untied, a symbol of intimacy. This is a key detail, a stark contrast to the intricate, pinned-up hairstyles worn during the day. This hairstyle is reserved only for the bedchamber. You are dressed in layers of silk, not the formal, stiff kimonos of court, but softer, lighter garments. The final layer is a special sleeping kimono, the yogi, often exquisitely embroidered, but designed to be easily removed. The colors chosen for you are subtle, muted shades of lilac and silver, meant to look beautiful in the dim candlelight. Everything is symbolic. Everything is part of the performance. As they work, your mind flashes back to Lady Kyo's final, most cynical lessons. She spoke of this night not as an act of passion, but as a duty and a test. Your goal is not to feel pleasure, she had said, her voice like ice. Your goal is to be pleasing, be graceful, be quiet, be responsive. Do not speak unless he addresses you. Do not ask questions. Your body is an offering. Your womb is the prize. Never forget that. This is the cold, hard historical truth that shatters any romantic illusions. For a concubine, particularly on her first night, intimacy was a mandatory, ritualized duty. It was often a public secret when it would happen, and the act itself was freighted with political and dynastic importance. Her personal desires or feelings were utterly irrelevant and, if expressed, could be seen as deeply inappropriate or even insulting. The entire event was orchestrated for one primary purpose, the conception of a male heir. You are led from your quarters through a series of silent, dimly lit corridors. These are the private pathways that connect the Ōoku to the Lord's personal chambers. Paths you have never been permitted to walk before. The guards you pass do not look at you. They stare straight ahead, their faces like stone. You are a secret being delivered, but a secret everyone knows. You arrive at the Lord's chambers. They are surprisingly austere. A single, perfect piece of calligraphy hangs on the wall. The air smells of old wood and the faint, clean scent of the man himself. He is not there. You are instructed to kneel in the center of the room and wait. And so you wait. The minutes stretch into what feels like an hour. This, too, is part of the ritual. It is a demonstration of his power and your subservience. He operates on his own time. You exist only in his. When he finally enters, he has changed into a simple, dark silk robe. He doesn't acknowledge you at first. He speaks with an attendant about some minor administrative matter. It's a deliberate display of nonchalance, reinforcing that you are just one small part of his evening, not its main event. Finally, he dismisses the attendant and turns his gaze to you. You may approach, he says. You move forward on your knees, your head bowed, the sliding foot motion you practiced endlessly. He sits on his sleeping quilt, a cup of sake in his hand. He gestures for you to pour for him. Your hands tremble as you lift the small ceramic flask. You manage to pour the sake without spilling a drop. He drinks, watching you over the rim of the cup. I am told you are called Ked, he says. It is a statement, not a question. Yes, my lord, you whisper, your voice barely audible. The rest of the encounter is a blur of choreographed, emotional movements. There is no conversation, no tenderness, no passion. It is a physical act, quiet and methodical. It feels less like an embrace and more like a transaction being finalized. You focus on Lady Kyo's words, on your breathing, on keeping your expression placid and still. You detach your mind from your body, becoming an observer of your own experience. A strange and often misunderstood aspect of this is the immense pressure surrounding the act itself. Both you and the Lord are aware that the hopes of the clan rest on this moment. His own virility is on the line, just as your fertility is. For all his power, he is also a prisoner of his duty. This shared, unspoken pressure makes the act even more sterile, more of a clinical procedure than a romantic union. Historians and scholars continue to debate the emotional and psychological impact of these encounters on the women involved. While the official narrative emphasizes duty and honor, personal diaries and poems from the period, though rare, hint at a spectrum of experiences, from quiet resignation to deep-seated trauma. It is impossible to know for sure what any individual woman felt, but to assume it was romantic would be a profound misreading of the culture and the power dynamics at play. Afterward, he turns away from you and settles down to sleep as if you are not there. You are expected to remain, to lie perfectly still and silent by his side until just before dawn. You lie there in the darkness, listening to the sound of his breathing, every nerve in your body screaming. You have done your duty. You have performed flawlessly. You have crossed the most important threshold of your new life. But as you lie there, a hollow ache spreads through your chest. You have given everything, and in return, you have received nothing. You have never felt so profoundly alone. The night with the Lord was a silent, personal trial. The morning after is a public, political one. The ordeal is far from over. In many ways, it has just begun. Long before the first rays of sunlight pierce the paper screens, you must slip out of the Lord's chambers. This is not a walk of shame. It is a crucial, highly scrutinized part of the ritual. You are escorted by one of the Lord's personal, elderly female attendants, a woman whose face is a roadmap of secrets. You don't return directly to your own quarters. You are taken to a specific chamber, a sort of formal debriefing room. Here, Lady Shima and one or two other high-ranking ladies in waiting are waiting for you. They don't ask you if you had a pleasant evening. They don't ask about your feelings. Their questions are direct, practical, and deeply invasive. Though couched in formal, polite language, did the Lord seem in good health? Was his spirit untroubled? Was the union successfully completed? You answer in the soft, deferential tones you were taught, giving the briefest possible affirmative replies. Your every word, your every flicker of an eyelash, is being analyzed. They are searching for signs. Did you please him? Do you seem confident, indicating the night went well? Or do you seem anxious, suggesting a poor performance? Your demeanor in this moment will set the tone for your reputation for weeks to come. This morning after inspection is a historically recognized practice, a way for the female hierarchy of the Ōoku to maintain control and gather intelligence. They are assessing the outcome of the night as if it were a diplomatic mission. After the interrogation, you are finally allowed to return to your room. Your own attendants are waiting. They help you dress for the day, their movements filled with a new, subtle reverence. The news, of course, is already known throughout the entire Ōoku. The grapevine here is more efficient than any official messenger. When you walk to the morning meal, the atmosphere is electric. The whispers fall silent as you enter. The other women don't look at you directly, but you can feel the weight of their collective gaze. You are no longer Ked, the quiet newcomer. You are now Ked, the woman who has shared the Lord's bed. Your seat at the meal has been moved. You are no longer at the far back with the other novices. You have been elevated by 3 places, a seemingly tiny shift that is, in this world, as significant as a major promotion. Lady Fuji, the concubine whose favor recently faded, watches you with a look of bitter resignation. Lady Yumiko, the fiery favorite, ignores you completely, a clear and deliberate snub. Lady Tiku, the senior concubine, gives you a brief, unreadable glance before turning her attention to her bowl of rice. The battle lines are being subtly redrawn, and you are now a piece on the board that cannot be ignored. A small, often overlooked detail of this period is the intense focus on your body. From this day forward, everything you eat will be monitored. Your meals will be richer, filled with foods thought to promote fertility, certain types of seaweed, specific herbs. You might be given special medicinal teas, brewed under the supervision of the court physician and Lady Shima. Your physical health is no longer a personal matter. It is a state concern. Every month, the senior ladies will be watching, waiting for any sign that you might be pregnant. The pressure is immense and unceasing. You are expected to display a specific, carefully calibrated demeanor, one of serene gratitude. To appear too proud would be arrogant and invite resentment. To appear unhappy or unaffected would be an insult to the Lord's honor. You must project an aura of quiet, humble contentment. It is another role you must play, another mask you must wear. The political fallout begins almost immediately. A few days after your night with the Lord, a gift arrives for you. It's a small, exquisitely lacquered box for storing incense. It's not from the Lord. It's from Lady Kiko, the senior concubine. It is a test. Do you accept it, thereby acknowledging her superior status and placing yourself in her debt? Do you decline it, an act of shocking disrespect? You know the correct answer. You send a message back with the servant, a carefully worded poem of thanks, written on your finest paper, praising her generosity and taste. You have accepted your place in the hierarchy. For now, you have shown you understand the rules. Historians debate the level of autonomy the Lord actually had in choosing his knightly partners. While in theory his will was absolute, in reality, his choices were often heavily guided by senior advisors and the powerful women of the Ōoku. Lady Shima and others might subtly suggest that a particular woman was looking especially beautiful today, or that another was in good health and spirits. They could manipulate the schedule, create accidental encounters like the one you had in the music room, and generally steer the Lord towards the candidates they favored for political or strategic reasons. Was your summons the result of his fleeting interest in your song? Or was it a calculated move by a faction within the court who saw you as a potential counterweight to the currently favored Lady Umiko? You will likely never know. The most difficult part of this new reality is the uncertainty. The summons may not come again for a week, a month, or either. Your entire future hangs on the whim of a man you do not know. In a game whose rules are constantly changing, you have been given a taste of relevance, a sip from the cup of power. It is intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. The morning after is not an end, but a beginning. You have survived the initiation. Now you must survive the consequences. Your newfound status is a fragile, flickering candle in a drafty hallway. You are no longer invisible, but this visibility makes you a target. You quickly learn that the deadliest battles in the Ōoku you are not fought with raised voices or angry gestures. They are fought with whispers, with rumors, with perfectly timed accidents on the slow, methodical erosion of a rival's reputation. Your first real taste of this silent warfare comes not from one of the senior ladies, but from a place you least expect. It begins with a hairpin. The Lord, in a fleeting moment of favor, following a second summons, sends you a small gift, a simple but elegant hairpin made of silver, shaped like a crane's feather. It's a minor token, but in this world, there are no minor tokens. You wear it, as is expected, to the next formal gathering. As you take your seat, you notice Lady Umiko, the current favorite, staring at it. Her lips are pressed into a thin, hard line. You have unintentionally encroached on her territory, the public reception of gifts. A few days later, the attack begins. It's subtle at first. One of your young attendants mentions, with feigned innocence, that she heard some of the other maids whispering. They were saying that the silver in your new hairpin is not from the imperial mines, but from a lesser, provincial source, she says, her eyes wide. Of course, it must be just jealous gossip. It's a brilliant, insidious move. The rumor is impossible to prove or disprove. It doesn't question the Lord's generosity, which would be dangerous. Instead, it subtly cheapens the gift, and, by extension, you. It implies that the favor you received was second-rate, a lesser version of the affection he shows to Lady Umiko, who is known for her golden jade ornaments. This is the classic, historically documented method of combat in courtly life, from high-in-era Japan to Versailles. Rumor and innuendo were the primary weapons in a world where direct confrontation was forbidden. A well-crafted rumor could do more damage than a sword, poisoning a person's reputation and influence without leaving a single physical mark. You know you cannot let this go unanswered. To ignore the rumor is to validate it. To confront Lady Umiko directly would be a suicidal breach of etiquette. You must fight fire with fire, or rather, smoke with smoke. You need a counter-narrative. You think back to Lady Kiowa's lessons on strategy. Never attack the person, she had advised. Attack their performance, question their taste, their composure, their sincerity. Your opportunity comes a week later. Lady Umiko, in a bid to reassert her premier status, decides to host a small, exclusive incense judging party. It's a game called Kodo, the Way of Incense, where participants must identify different blends of rare woods. It's an elegant, refined pastime, a perfect stage for her to display her sophistication. You are invited. A clear power move on her part. Your presence is required so you can witness her triumph. You spend the 2 days prior not practicing for the game, but preparing your weapon. You don't bribe your own attendants. They are too loyal to the Ōoku's power structure. Instead, you use the small bits of goodwill you have cultivated. You approach the elderly servant who sometimes brings you tea, the one whose sick mother you inquired about. You give her a small packet of sweet rice cakes, a treat you saved from your own meal. As she thanks you, you mention, as if an afterthought, Lady Yumiko is so wonderfully energetic, isn't she? I don't know how she finds the time for such elaborate preparations. I heard she has been practicing for the incense game day and night. It's the perfect counter-rumor. It sounds like a compliment, but you know how the Ōoku grapevine works. By the time of the party, the story will have morphed. The new narrative will be that Lady Yumiko is not a natural connoisseur. She is a try-hard. She is insecure, desperately cramming and practicing for a simple party to shore up her flagging confidence. You have subtly undermined the very foundation of her performance. At the party, the air is thick with fragrant smoke and unspoken tension. Lady Yumiko is a flawless hostess. She identifies each incense blend with practiced ease. When your turn comes, you deliberately hesitate on one of the easier scents. You frown slightly, as if in deep concentration, before correctly naming it. Then you offer a small, self-deprecating smile. "Forgive me," you say to the room at large. "My senses are not as sharp as Lady Yumiko's. I have had no time to prepare." The arrow hits its mark. You have just publicly reinforced the rumor you started. You've positioned yourself as the natural, unstudied talent, and her as the diligent, but ultimately artificial performer. Several of the other women exchange tiny, almost imperceptible glances. Lady Chico, the senior concubine, hides a small smile behind her fan. You have won the round. A bizarre, little-known tactic in these silent wars was the manipulation of clothing. A rival might accidentally spill a drop of tea on your finest kimono right before a major event. Or, more subtly, a rival's attendants might helpfully point out that the seasonal flower motif on your robe is a week out of season. A tiny but mortifying fashion faux pas in a world obsessed with aesthetic perfection. These were acts of microaggression, designed to unnerve and embarrass. The debate among historians continues. Was this constant, low-level psychological warfare a sign of inherent female cadence, as misogynistic historical accounts would suggest? Or was it a rational, if ruthless, response to a system that pitted women against each other for their very survival and the future of their families? When the stakes are that high, and direct action is impossible, it's logical that the conflict would be sublimated into these highly symbolic, indirect forms. That night, as you lie in your bed, you don't feel triumphant. You feel a cold knot of dread in your stomach. You have drawn blood. Metaphorically speaking, you have proven you are not a helpless victim, but you have also escalated the conflict. You have shown your teeth, and in doing so, you have made a true enemy. The silent war has just begun, and you have fired your first real shot, having won a minor skirmish. You now find yourself entangled in a more complex and dangerous campaign. The weapon you must master next is not rumor, but emotion itself. Specifically, you must learn to wield jealousy your own, your rivals, and most importantly, the Lord's as a finely honed political instrument. Your rival, Lady Yumiko, is smart. She knows she lost the last round. She understands that a direct attack on you would be clumsy. So, she changes her strategy. She decides to portray herself not as a competitor, but as a victim of your ambition and the Lord's wandering eye. She begins a subtle performance of melancholy. When the Lord is present at gatherings, she no longer projects her usual vibrant confidence. Instead, she appears quiet, withdrawn, her eyes often downcast. She might let out a small, almost inaudible sigh when she thinks he might be looking. She picks at her food. She chooses kimonos in somber shades of gray and deep blue. She is painting a picture of a devoted heart, quietly breaking. This is a high-risk, high-reward strategy. It is a direct appeal to the Lord's ego and his sense of possession. She is not accusing him of neglect, which would be an unforgivable insult. Instead, she is silently screaming, "Your attention to another has wounded me so deeply, because I care for you so much." It starts to work. The Lord, like many powerful men, is susceptible to the idea that he is the center of a woman's emotional universe. He begins to pay more attention to her, sending her small gifts to cheer her up, spending more time in her company. Your own summons become less frequent. The tide of favor is turning against you. powered by the weaponized tears of your rival. You realize you cannot simply ignore this. You must enter the emotional arena and fight her on her own terms. Lady Kyo's voice echoes in your memory. A man's pity is a powerful tool, but his jealousy is a far sharper one. You decide it's time to make the Lord jealous. This is an incredibly dangerous game. To be suspected of having feelings for another man would mean a slow, agonizing death. Your manufactured jealousy must be directed, paradoxically, back at the Lord himself. You must make him feel that his own hold on you is not as absolute as he believes. You can't use a real person. That's amateurish and suicidal. You must create a phantom, a ghost of a rival that exists only in his mind. Your chosen tool is poetry. You begin to write again, but you stop writing the serene, classical poems about nature that are expected of you. Instead, you begin to compose verses filled with a quiet, nameless longing. Poems about watching a single bird fly free from a cage, about the memory of a song from a distant past, about all of that is beautiful but unattainable. The language is ambiguous, filled with metaphors that could be interpreted in many ways. This was a common and historically documented practice in courtly circles. Poetry, especially the classic waka form, was the primary medium for expressing complex, often forbidden, emotions in a socially acceptable way. You don't show these poems to anyone. Instead, you accidentally one on a small writing desk in a common room where you know the Lord sometimes passes. It's a poem about the color of the sky at twilight and how it reminds you of a promise that can no longer be kept. A few days later, Lady Shima summons you. The folded piece of paper with your poem is on the table between you. The Lord found this, she says, her voice cold. Explain its meaning. You feign a flush of embarrassment and fear. It is nothing, my lady, just a foolish, private thought, a memory of home. Lady Shima studies your face for a long, uncomfortable moment. Your thoughts are no longer private, kid, and your memories should be of your duty here. Be careful. She dismisses you, but you have planted the seed. The next time you are summoned to the Lord's chamber, his demeanor has changed. He is not hostile, but there is a new intensity in his gaze. He watches you more closely. He asks you, with feigned casualness, about your life before coming to the castle. He is searching. He is looking for the source of this mysterious melancholy, this phantom rival he has created in his own imagination. You have made yourself a puzzle he needs to solve, a territory he needs to reconquer. A strange, related historical tidbit is the concept of mono no aware, a deep, gentle sadness at the transience of things. This aesthetic appreciation for melancholy was central to the Japanese courtly ideal. By performing a poetic, beautiful sadness, you were not just manipulating the Lord. You were also conforming to a deeply ingrained cultural value. You were making your jealousy and longing artful. The academic world still debates the extent to which emotions like jealousy were genuinely felt versus performative. Were these women truly consumed by romantic rivalry? Or were they cold, calculating actors playing a role? The most likely answer is that the line was hopelessly blurred. To effectively perform an emotion, you must, on some level, access a part of it within yourself. The performance and the reality likely fed into each other, creating a confusing and emotionally exhausting feedback loop. Your strategy pays off. The Lord's visits become more frequent again. His attention is more focused, more possessive. He is trying to erase the ghost from your poems with his own presence. You had successfully turned Lady Yumiko's weapon against her. She tried to win his pity. You have claimed his attention by making him insecure. But as you lie beside him in the dark, you feel the chilling cost of your victory. You have invited a new level of scrutiny into your inner world. You have turned your own mind into a battlefield, filled with fictional longings and manufactured sorrows. To win this game, you are having to lie not just to the Lord, but to yourself. You are weaving a web of beautiful, tragic deceptions, and you are beginning to feel trapped in the center of it. Your recent successes have elevated your status, but they have also isolated you. You are now a recognized player in the game, a threat to the established order. and you are about to learn one of the most brutal lessons of the Ōoku. You have no friends. The smiling faces and helpful hands that surround you belong to people whose loyalty is, at best, conditional and, at worst, for sale. Your primary companions are your two young attendants, a girl named Hana and another named Kyo. They have been with you since your arrival, and a part of you, the part that still remembers what friendship feels like, has grown accustomed to their presence. Hana is quick and efficient. Kyo is quieter, with watchful eyes. They attend to your every need, dressing you, preparing your tea, arranging your rooms. They see you at your most vulnerable. You have started to trust them, a foolish and dangerous mistake. The first sign of trouble is small. You have been working on a particularly delicate piece of calligraphy, a gift you intend to send to Lady Shima to curry favor. You leave it on your desk to dry. When you return an hour later, there is a small, almost invisible smudge of ink on the corner. It's ruined. It's a tiny imperfection, but in this world of aesthetic perfectionism, it's enough to make the piece unusable. You ask your attendants about it. Hana looks horrified and apologetic. Kyo just looks down at the floor and says nothing. It could have been an accident. You tell yourself it was an accident. A week later, a more serious incident occurs. You are scheduled for a rare and prestigious honor, to participate in the formal tea ceremony with the Lord and his official wife, the Mido Sama. It is a crucial political event, a chance to show your grace and composure in front of the highest-ranking woman in the castle. The night before, you lay out the kimono you plan to wear, a beautiful robe with a subtle pattern of autumn grasses. In the morning, as Kyo is helping you dress, she lets out a small gasp. There is a tiny tear in the silk, right near the collar. It's not large, but it's undeniable. To wear a damaged garment to such an event would be a grave insult. There is no time to have it mended. You are forced to wear a different kimono, one that is less appropriate for the season. You feel its wrongness all through the ceremony. Your composure is shaken. You make a small error, clinking the bamboo ladle against the rim of the tea bowl. The Mido Sama's eyes narrow for a fraction of a second. The Lord doesn't seem to notice, but you know she did. Your performance was flawed. This is the grim reality of your existence. The people closest to you are also the most effective delivery system for sabotage. Historical records and court tales are filled with stories of attendants being bribed or coerced into spying on their mistresses or carrying out these small acts of sabotage. A misplaced letter, a spilled medicine, a forgotten message. These were the daily tools of attrition in the silent war. You know you have to find out who is responsible. You can't accuse them directly. You have no proof, and a false accusation could ruin you. You need to set a trap. You confide in each of your attendants separately, telling them two different, minor, and completely false secrets. To Hana, you whisper that you have a persistent headache and have been secretly using a folk remedy given to you by your mother. To Kyo, you mention that you are having trouble sleeping and have been composing poetry late at night, a sign of a troubled mind. You wait. 3 days later, Lady Yumiko makes a concerned inquiry about your health in front of several other women. Ted-san, you look a little pale, she says, her voice dripping with false sympathy. I hope you are sleeping well. An active mind can be so restless at night. The trap has sprung. It was Kyo, the quiet one, the one whose gaze always seemed to hold something back. Your heart sinks, a cold, heavy weight in your chest. The sense of betrayal is sharp and real, a surprising pang of genuine hurt. Now comes the difficult part. What do you do? To have her dismissed would be a public declaration of war against her sponsor, Lady Yumiko. It would be messy and loud. You need a more elegant, more chilling solution. You need to neutralize her without removing her. That evening, you summon Kyo to your private room. You don't mention the incident. You don't accuse her of anything. You are calm, your voice gentle. You talk about the changing seasons. You thank her for her diligent service. Then, you lean in, as if sharing a great secret. Tio, you say, your voice is soft whisper. I know you are a good, loyal girl, and I know that powerful people sometimes ask us to do things we are not comfortable with. They make threats. They make promises. You pause, letting the words hang in the air. I want you to know something. Lady Umiko is like a beautiful summer flower. But winter is coming. The Lord's favor is a fickle wind. But my family has deep roots, and we have a very, very long memory. You then hand her a small, sweet cake. You have been working so hard. Please, have this. You have just delivered a masterstroke of psychological warfare. You haven't accused her. You haven't threatened her directly. You have shown her that you know. You have subtly pointed out the weakness of her patron. Then you have framed your own power, not in the fickle favor of the Lord, but in the enduring, terrifying reach of your family clan. You have turned her from a spy into a double agent, paralyzed by fear. From now on, every time Lady Umiko asks her to do something, she will be terrified of what you might do in retaliation. This brings up a fascinating, and often grim, historical detail. The fate of servants caught in the crossfire. They were the expendable foot soldiers in these aristocratic wars. If discovered, they would be severely punished, while their high-ranking sponsors would almost always deny any involvement. Theirs was a precarious, undoffed-on tragic existence. Historians debate the nature of loyalty in these hierarchical settings. Was it based on genuine affection, a sense of duty, or simply a pragmatic calculation of who was most likely to win? The reality, for most, was likely the latter. Loyalty was a commodity, and it flowed towards power. By demonstrating your own potential for power and for retribution, you have just changed the calculation for Kyo. She leaves your room, her face pale. She will continue to serve you, to dress you, to bring you tea. But the dynamic between you has been forever altered. The illusion of trust is shattered. You are truly alone now, surrounded not by companions, but by instruments you must manage and control. It is a lonely victory. The games of jealousy and espionage are merely a prelude to the main event, the central, all-consuming purpose of your existence. Every whispered rumor, every carefully crafted poem, every strategic alliance is ultimately aimed at a single, biological imperative: conceiving a son. In the world of the Ōoku, your womb is not a part of your body. It is a political battlefield. Your potential for fertility is your ultimate source of value, and the pressure to succeed is suffocating. After months of irregular summons, you finally suspect that the great gamble of your life has paid off. The signs are subtle at first: a persistent weariness, a change in your appetite, the monthly cycle year, and more importantly, the senior ladies have been tracking with obsessive precision. It is late. The entire Ōoku seems to be holding its breath. You are brought before Lady Shima and the court physician, an elderly man who is one of the few males allowed into this inner sanctum. He is not permitted to touch you. He observes you from a respectful distance, asks a series of indirect questions, and confers in low tones with Lady Shima. The diagnosis is confirmed. You are with child. The news transforms your status overnight. You are no longer just Ked, the promising concubine. You are now O'Hara-sama, the honorable belly. Your existence becomes a state-managed project of immense importance. This transition is a well-documented historical fact. A pregnant concubine was immediately elevated and cocooned in a web of ritual and protection. Your daily routine changes completely. You are excused from many of the tedious formal duties. You are moved to a quieter, more spacious set of rooms, away from the noise and bustle of the main quarters. Your diet becomes even more strictly controlled, a precise regimen of foods believed to ensure a healthy baby, and everyone hopes, a male one. You are surrounded by attendants whose sole job is to ensure your comfort and safety. You are no longer just a player in the game. You are the vessel for its most precious prize. This newfound privilege is a gilded cage. You are constantly monitored. You are not allowed to walk in certain gardens for fear you might slip. You are discouraged from reading any tales of war or tragedy, lest it upset your spirit and, by extension, the child. Your life is no longer your own in any sense. It belongs to the potential heir you carry. The pressure to produce a male heir is impossible to overstate. In a feudal society based on patrilineal succession, a lord's legacy depended entirely on having a son to inherit his title, his lands, and his power. The official wife, the midwife sama, often married for political reasons, sometimes failed to conceive or only had daughters. Therefore, the critical task of continuing the bloodline fell to the concubines. Your womb was a public utility, a key piece of state infrastructure. The other women's reactions are a study in controlled emotion. Lady Tico, who has only born daughters, sends you a gift of a silken maternity sash and a formal message of congratulations. It is a perfect performance of grace, but you can see the strain in her elegant calligraphy. Your success is a public reminder of her failure. Lady Yumiko, your fiery rival, falls into a sullen, resentful silence. Your pregnancy has checkmated her, at least for now. Her hold on the Lord's affection seems trivial compared to your biological triumph. A strange and fascinating aspect of this period was the intense reliance on superstition and ritual. Alongside the physician's advice, your life becomes governed by auspicious and inauspicious signs. Special prayers are offered at the castle shrine. You are given protective amulets to wear. Certain days are deemed unlucky for you to leave your rooms. Astrologers are consulted to predict the child's future. This blend of practical care and deep-seated superstition highlights the immense anxiety surrounding a noble birth. Historians debate how much of this was a genuine belief system and how much was a form of social control. By wrapping the pregnant concubine in this cocoon of ritual, the system both elevated her and completely constrained her, ensuring she did nothing to jeopardize the precious cargo she was carrying. As the months pass, your body changes, becoming a public spectacle. The other women watch your growing belly with a mixture of hope, envy, and calculation. Their own futures are tied to the outcome of your pregnancy. If you bear a son, the power dynamics of the entire Ōoku will shift. New factions will form around you. Old alliances will crumble. You spend your days in quiet seclusion, practicing the calm, serene demeanor expected of you. But inside, you are a roiling sea of anxiety. You are terrified of a miscarriage, of a difficult birth, of the child being unwell. And above all, you are haunted by the biggest fear of all, that the child might be a girl. To fail to produce a son would not be a personal disappointment. It would be a political disaster, demoting you from your exalted position and casting you back into the ranks of the unsuccessful. You often find yourself clutching the small, smooth stone from your mother, the last relic of your old life. It feels warm in your hand, a tiny anchor in the overwhelming sea of expectation. You are on the cusp of achieving the ultimate victory a woman in your position can hope for. But you have never felt more like a prisoner. Your body a gilded cage, your future hanging on the gender of the child kicking softly inside you. The stakes have been raised to their absolute peak. The entire clan is waiting. The entire castle is watching, and all you can do is wait. The day of the birth is not a private, family affair. It is a meticulously orchestrated state event. The birthing chamber is specially prepared, purified with salt and sake, and hung with protective charms and strips of white paper, symbols of purity. You are not surrounded by the comforting faces of your own mother or sisters. Instead, you are attended by the court physician, a team of experienced midwives, Lady Shima, and several other high-ranking ladies in waiting. They are not here to offer you emotional support. They are official witnesses, present to verify the legitimacy of the birth and to be the first to identify the heir. The labor is long and arduous. In the stifling room, heavy with incense and tension, you feel less like a mother giving birth and more like a vessel being emptied of its precious contents. The voices around you are hushed, formal. They speak of your progress in detached, clinical terms. Through the haze of pain, you are acutely aware of their anticipation. A collective will focus on a single outcome. Finally, after hours of struggle, the baby arrives. A small, sharp cry cuts through the thick air. For a fleeting second, you feel a wave of pure, primal relief. But before you can even see the child, it is whisked away by the head midwife. There is a moment of tense, absolute silence as she and the physician examine the newborn. You hold your breath, your heart pounding against your ribs. Your entire future, the culmination of all your struggles and sacrifices, hangs in this single, silent moment. The midwife turns, her face impassive. She bows deeply to Lady Shima. It is a healthy, beautiful princess, she announces. A princess, a girl. The words land in the room with a deadening thud. A wave of palpable, collective disappointment washes through the chamber. It's not spoken, not even acknowledged with a flicker of an expression, but you can feel it. The tension drains away, replaced by a polite, hello emptiness. Lady Shima approaches you, her face a mask of perfect decorum. You have done well, kid Seong, she says, her voice betraying no emotion. You have given the Lord a beautiful daughter. You have honored the clan. It is the correct thing to say. It is a lie. You have not honored the clan in the way that matters. You have failed in your primary duty. A daughter is a consolation prize. The flower, as the courtly language would say, she will be loved, she will be cherished, she will be raised as a princess and one day married off in a strategic alliance. Another political pawn just like her mother, but she cannot inherit. She cannot continue the main line. She has not solved the succession crisis. This is a crucial, often misunderstood, historical point. While a daughter was not a disaster, and was certainly infinitely better than no child at all, she did not fundamentally alter the political calculus for her mother. The mother of a daughter gained some status and respect, but she did not gain the ultimate power and security that came with being the mother of a future lord. The pressure to try again, to produce a son, would remain. In the days that follow, you are showered with formal congratulations and gifts. The Lord himself visits you, looks at the baby in her silken wrappings, and murmurs a few pleasantries about her delicate features. He is not unkind, but his visit is brief. There is a subtle but unmistakable sense of an opportunity missed. You are allowed to nurse and care for your daughter, but even this is under supervision. A wet nurse is also assigned, a common practice in noble households, to ensure the baby's nourishment is constant and, more cynically, to allow you to become fertile again as quickly as possible. You fall in love with your child, a fierce, protective love that surprises you with its intensity. You love her tiny hands, the way she smells after a bath, the soft fuzz of hair on her head. This love is the only true, uncomplicated thing you have felt since you entered the castle. But this love is also a source of deep, private pain. You look at her, a perfect, beautiful girl, and you know that in the eyes of this world, she is a disappointment, and her failure is your failure. A strange, sad detail of this reality was the hierarchy of children. A son, especially the firstborn, was a political entity from birth. A daughter was a secondary asset, the mother of the heir apparent. The Shishitsu no held a position of immense, unparalleled influence. The mother of a princess was simply the mother of a princess. Your rival's reactions are telling. Lady Yumiko, who had been silenced by your pregnancy, is suddenly vibrant again. She can barely conceal her relief. She sends you an extravagant gift for the baby, a gesture of sympathy that is really a celebration of your failure. Lady Tiku, the mother of 2 daughters herself, shows you a new, genuine kindness. You are no longer a threat to her. You are now a member of her club, the sorority of the unlucky. You have fallen from the heights of O'Hare Asama back down to the level of a common concubine who has simply proven her fertility. Historians still debate the emotional toll this gender pressure took on women. Personal accounts are scarce, as expressing disappointment in the birth of a healthy child would have been unthinkable. But the relentless focus on male heirs in genealogies, official records, and inheritance laws tells its own story. The system did not value daughters equally, and therefore, the women who bore them were not valued equally either. You hold your daughter close in the quiet of the night, whispering the name you have chosen for her, a name that has not yet been officially approved. You look into her sleeping face and make a silent vow. This world may see her as a consolation prize, but to you, she is everything, and you realize with a chilling clarity that the war is not over. It has just become more complicated. You are no longer fighting just for yourself. You are now fighting for her. For a future for this little girl in a world that has already judged her as second best. Life with a daughter settles into a new, strange rhythm. You have a measure of respectability now. You are a mother. But you lack the protective shield of power that bearing a son would have afforded you. This vulnerability makes you a target for a new kind of warfare. One that is subtler and more terrifying than rumors or torn kimonos. The fear of illness and poison. In the closed, paranoid environment of the Ōoku, where passions run high but are rarely expressed openly, any sudden illness is immediately suspect. Day fever, a stomach ailment, a persistent cough, these are rarely seen as mere medical issues. They are potential signs of a curse, a malevolent spell, or, most commonly, a skillfully administered poison. Your daughter, your precious little girl, becomes the focal point of this new anxiety. She is your greatest joy and your most profound weakness. You watch over her with a hawk's vigilance. Every sniffle sends a jolt of panic through you. Every time she refuses her food, your mind races with dark possibilities. This fear was not unfounded. While documented cases of successful poisonings are rare in mainstream historical records, as they would be, by nature, difficult to prove, the threat of poison was a constant and powerful presence in courtly life across many cultures. Accusations of poisoning, real or fabricated, were a classic way to eliminate a rival. The attack, when it comes, is insidious. Your daughter, now a toddler, develops a persistent, low-grade fever and a rash. The court physician is summoned. He examines her, prescribes herbal remedies, and speaks in calming, professional tones. But the remedies don't work. The fever lingers. The child is listless and weak. Whispers begin to circulate. The source, you are sure, is Lady Yumiko's faction. The narrative they weave is clever. They don't accuse you of being a bad mother. Instead, they suggest that you are unlucky, that perhaps your own lineage carries some weakness, or that you have unknowingly offended a spirit. They are not attacking you directly. They are branding you as tainted, as a source of misfortune, in a world steeped in superstition. This is a devastating accusation. You become consumed by a terrifying paranoia. You taste all of your daughter's food before she eats it. You personally inspect every piece of her clothing, every toy, looking for anything unusual, a strange powder, a sharp object. You trust no one. The attendants assigned to the nursery, who a week ago seemed like kindly helpers, now look like potential assassins. A strange and little-known aspect of this was the counter-magic that women employed to protect themselves and their children. They would secretly consult with rogue monks, mystics, or shrine maidens, figures who operated on the fringes of official society. They would purchase almusims, as secret purification rituals performed, or pay for curses to be placed on their rivals. This was a hidden, supernatural arms race running parallel to the political one. Desperate, you seek out a different kind of help. You know the official court physician is competent, but also politically constrained. He will not entertain any notion of foul play. Through a chain of trusted whispers, starting with the elderly servant you once helped, you arrange a secret consultation, not with a mystic, but with a man known only as the apothecary, a commoner from the castle town who has a reputation for his deep knowledge of herbs both healing and harmful. The meeting is incredibly risky. You feign a visit to a small, secluded shrine within the castle walls. The apothecary is smuggled in, disguised as a gardener. He doesn't look at you. He listens as you, from behind a screen, describe your daughter's symptoms in minute detail. He asks sharp, practical questions. What color is the rash? Does the fever rise at night? Are her fingernails discolored? After a long silence, he speaks. His voice is rough, uncultured. It is not a curse, my lady, he says, and it is not a common sickness. This sounds like a slow poison, not from a single dose, but from many small ones, administered over weeks, something in her food, or perhaps in the incense burned in her room. He then describes a possible culprit, a specific type of fungus that, when dried and powdered, is almost tasteless and can induce these exact symptoms. He also tells you of an antidote, a bitter tea made from a rare type of root. The historical debate here centers on the efficacy and prevalence of poison. Some scholars argue that its use is vastly overstated in popular fiction, a convenient, undramatic plot device. Others point to anecdotal evidence, court diaries, and the sheer number of laws and precautions surrounding the food of high-ranking individuals as proof that the fear, at least, was very real and shaped daily life. The truth is likely that successful poisonings were rare, but attempts and, more importantly, accusations were common political tools. Now, you have a terrible choice. To openly accuse a rival of poisoning your child without absolute proof would be a catastrophic move. You would be seen as hysterical and malicious. The Lord would be furious at such a disruption to the harmony of his household. You cannot win a direct confrontation. You must save your daughter, but you must do it silently. You obtain the antidote root through the same secret channels. You brew the bitter tea yourself, forcing it down your crying daughter's throat, your heart breaking with every sip. You dismiss the nursery attendants, claiming you wish to care for the child yourself. You replace all the incense in her room with a simple, common blend you purchase yourself. You are now in a state of high alert, a lone sentry guarding a fortress of two. Slowly, painstakingly, over several weeks, the antidote works. The color returns to your daughter's cheeks. The fever breaks. Her energy returns. You have won. You have saved her. But the victory is silent and invisible. No one knows the battle you have just fought. The official story, the one recorded by the court physician, is that his own remedies finally took effect. Lady Umiko and her faction are thwarted, but unpunished. You look at your healthy, laughing child, and you feel a new kind of cold, hard resolve solidifying in your soul. They came for your daughter. They tried to take the one pure thing in your life. The unspoken rules of the game have been broken, and you realize that your own survival, and your daughter's, will require you to be more ruthless than you ever imagined possible. The attempt on your daughter's life changes you. The soft edges of your personality, the lingering traces of the girl you once were, have been burned away. In their place is a core of cold, pragmatic steel. You have learned the hard way that survival in this world is not just about gaining favor or bearing children. It is about preemptive defense and the ruthless management of your own emotions. And the most dangerous emotion of all, you now realize, is love. You love your daughter. That love is a fierce, burning sun in your private universe. It is also your greatest vulnerability, a fact your enemies have already tried to exploit. You learn to shield it, to never display the depth of your affection in public. In the company of others, you treat your child with a kind of gentle, formal distance, the proper demeanor of a noble woman towards her offspring. The passionate, protective love is reserved for the privacy of your own chambers, behind closed screens. But it's the other kind of love, the romantic, emotional attachment to the Lord, that you must now treat as a deadly poison. In the beginning, you were terrified of him, then hopeful, then grateful for his favor. In the quiet moments after his visits, you sometimes found yourself feeling a flicker of something akin to affection, a sense of connection to this powerful, lonely man with whom you shared such a strange intimacy. You might have even mistaken it for the beginnings of love. You now understand that this feeling is a trap. To genuinely love the Lord is to give him an unbearable power over you. It makes his every whim, every glance, every summons a measure of your personal happiness. It makes his favor a drug you cannot live without. It makes his attention to other women not a political setback, but a personal wound. To love him is to hand your enemies the perfect weapon to use against you, your own heart. This deliberate suppression of romantic love is a key theme in understanding the psychology of women in your position. While courtly literature of the period is filled with tales of passionate romance, the practical reality for Concubine was that true emotional attachment to her lord was a profound liability. It clouded judgment, created vulnerabilities, and distracted from the real business of survival and advancement. You begin a process of conscious, deliberate emotional detachment. When the Lord summons you, You perform your role flawlessly. You are warm, graceful, attentive. You are the perfect companion, but inwardly, you are a fortress. You observe him. You study him. You learn what pleases him and what angers him. Not as a lover, but as a strategist. You are profiling your target. His moments of kindness are no longer a source of personal joy, but data points to be analyzed. His moments of anger are not frightening, but are useful indicators of his weaknesses. One night, he is in a rare, contemplative mood. He speaks to you not as a concubine, but almost as a confidant. He talks of the pressures of his position, of a recent border dispute, of the disloyalty of one of his vassals. The old you would have been deeply moved, honored by this glimpse into his inner world. The new you listens with careful, calculated empathy. You offer soft, non-committal words of comfort. You are a mirror, reflecting back the image of a sympathetic listener he wants to see. That you are also filing away every piece of information. The name of the disloyal vassal, the location of the border dispute. This is valuable political intelligence. A little known but fascinating aspect of your role is that you could become an informal intelligence hub. The Lord, relaxed and off guard in the privacy of his chambers, might let slip details he would never share with his official council. A clever concubine could piece together these fragments of pillow talk into a surprisingly accurate picture of the political landscape. This information, if used wisely, could be a source of immense, hidden power. You must also guard against the love you feel from him. If he shows you what seems to be genuine affection, you must recognize it for what it is, a fleeting emotion that is subject to change without notice. To believe in it, to build your security on it, is to build your house on sand. Lady Umiko made that mistake. She believed the Lord's passionate attention was love, and it made her careless and arrogant. You will not repeat her error. Your security must be built on a foundation of tangible assets, status, alliances, and, most importantly, the potential of your own womb to one day produce a son. The academic debate on this topic is intense. Were these women capable of completely suppressing their emotions, becoming the cold, political operators they needed to be? Or were they in a constant state of cognitive dissonance, their natural human desire for connection at war with the harsh realities of their environment? Some feminist historians argue that to portray these women as unfeeling automatons is to deny them their humanity. Others contend that underestimating their capacity for cold, rational calculation is to patronize them and misunderstand the life or death nature of the game they were playing. The cost of this self-imposed emotional winter is high. You feel a part of yourself shriveling, growing cold and tired. There is a loneliness in this fortress of the heart that is more profound than any physical isolation. You have mastered the art of faking jealousy, but you must now master the far more difficult art of killing genuine affection. One evening, your daughter is sleeping peacefully. You watch her, and that fierce, dangerous love swells in your chest. You touch the small, smooth stone from your mother, still hidden in your sleeve. It is a link to a time when love was not a weapon or a liability, but a simple, warm presence. You realize with a pang of grief that the girl who received that stone is truly gone now. You have murdered her out of necessity. You have become Kid, the perfect concubine, a masterpiece of artifice and control. And you wonder, in the silent darkness, if there is anything of your true self left inside. Having fortified your heart against the dangerous illusion of loving the Lord, you must now confront the ultimate, unforgivable sin of the Ōoku, falling in love with another man. This is the one crime for which there is no forgiveness, no political maneuvering that can save you. It is treason of the highest order, an act that violates the very foundation of this world. You don't seek it out. It finds you in a fleeting, accidental glance. He is a young samurai guard, assigned to a post in one of the outer gardens that you are sometimes permitted to visit with your daughter. You don't even know his name. He is handsome, but it's not his looks that catch your attention. It's the expression on his face as he watches a bird land on a branch. It's a look of simple, unburdened delight, an emotion you haven't seen on anyone's face in years. It's a look of freedom, Your eyes meet for a fraction of a second. He looks away instantly, his face flushing with fear and embarrassment at his own lapse in discipline. He knows as well as you do that he is not supposed to look at you, the Lord's property. But in that one stolen moment, you felt something you had long forgotten. A spark of simple, human connection with a peer, not a superior to be managed, or an inferior to be controlled. An equal. The feeling is terrifying. It is a tiny, warm ember in the cold, carefully managed fortress of your heart. You know you must stamp it out immediately. To nurture it, to even think about it, is to play with fire in a house made of paper. Your resolve is hardened by a story that is whispered among the older women of the Ōoku, a cautionary tale told to frighten new arrivals. It's the story of Lady Hisako, a concubine from a generation before. She was beautiful, favored, and had borne the previous lord a daughter, but she made the fatal mistake of falling in love. Her lover was not a noble, but a musician who came to the castle to teach the shakuhachi flute. Their affair was one of whispers and stolen moments, of poems hidden in the hollow of a bamboo flute, of glances exchanged across a crowded room. They were careful, but not careful enough. A rival concubine, desperate to ruin her, set a trap. She arranged for a letter from the musician to fall into the hands of the head lady in waiting. The punishment was swift and brutal, a public spectacle designed to serve as a permanent warning. This is a grim but historically consistent aspect of justice in this era. Adultery by a lord's wife or concubine was not treated as a personal failing. It was a political crime, a pollution of the sacred bloodline and an intolerable insult to the lord's honor. Lady Hisako and her musician were dragged to the dry riverbed outside the castle. They were tied to stakes, facing each other. They were not granted a swift, honorable death. The sentence was slow, agonizing, designed to maximize their suffering on public humiliation. They were left there for days, to be shamed by the public, to slowly perish from exposure and thirst. Her family was stripped of its rank and exiled. Her name was struck from all official records. She was erased. This story, or one like it, is a staple of the lore of every noble household. It serves its purpose. As you walk through the garden with your daughter, you deliberately avoid the path that takes you past the young guard's post. You keep your eyes fixed on the ground, on your child, on anything but him. You are not the only one who noticed that fleeting glance. Lady Yumiko, your ever-watchful rival, saw it too. Or perhaps she didn't, but she is clever enough to sense a potential weakness. She begins to subtly probe. The new guards in the West Garden are quite diligent, aren't they? She might say to you in passing, her eyes searching your face for any reaction. So young, so serious. She is laying a snare, hoping you will step into it. You know how to respond. You give her a look of blank incompression. Aaron, I hadn't noticed. You reply, your voice cool and dismissive. I find the peonies far more interesting. You turn the conversation, displaying an absolute lack of interest. You are walling off that part of your memory, breaking it up so no one can ever find it. A lesser-known, psychological element of this taboo was the projection of desire. In such a repressed environment, the women were hyper-aware of any potential transgression. They would often see affairs where none existed, projecting their own suppressed desires and frustrations onto others. An innocent conversation, a shared smile, these could be easily twisted into evidence of a clandestine romance by a jealous or malicious rival. You had to be constantly on guard, not just against your own feelings, but against the perception of your feelings. The academic world has long been fascinated by these courtly love scandals. Were they common? Probably not. The risks were simply too high, but their power as cautionary tales was immense. Historians debate whether the brutal punishments were or about enforcing marital fidelity, or about maintaining the rigid class structure. An affair between a high-ranking woman and a low-ranking man was a threat not just to the bloodline, but to the social order itself. It suggested that passion could transcend class, a dangerously revolutionary idea. That night, you have a dream. You are standing in an open field, the sun on your face. The young guard is there, and he is smiling that free, easy smile. There is no castle, no komoda, no fear. The feeling of relief is so overwhelming that you start to cry. You wake up with tears on your cheeks, your heart pounding with a mixture of longing and terror. You get up, splash cold water on your face, and sit in the darkness until the feeling subsides. The dream was a beautiful lie. Reality is the cold floor beneath your feet, the silent, sleeping child in the next room, and the ever-present threat of the executioner's stake. You have looked into the abyss of a forbidden emotion, and you have pulled yourself back from the edge. You know now with absolute certainty that there is no room in your life for any love at all, not for the Lord, and most definitely not for a nameless guard in the garden. Your heart must remain a cold, empty room, because to let anyone else inside is to invite your own destruction. After years of walking a tightrope of solitude, you come to a chilling realization. You cannot win this war alone. Your strategy of emotional detachment and silent vigilance has kept you alive, but it has not advanced your position. You are still the mother of a single daughter. Your status respectable but stagnant. Lady Yumiko's favor with the Lord remains a constant threat, and other, younger women are always arriving. Their fresh face is a reminder that your own time is finite. To survive the long game, you need an ally. The idea of alliance in the Ōoku is a paradox. Trust is a non-existent currency. Every woman is, at her core, a competitor. A true friendship, based on affection and mutual support, is a dangerous fantasy. But an alliance, a pragmatic, cold-blooded partnership based on a shared enemy and mutual self-interest, that is a possibility. It is a temporary truce in a permanent war. Your target for this alliance is the person who should be your natural enemy, Lady Chico. She is the senior concubine, the one who has been here the longest, the mother of 2 daughters. For years, you have circled each other like wary predators. She has the status you lack. You possess a youth and potential fertility that she has likely lost. You are natural rivals. You are also, you realize, perfect partners. You both have the same primary obstacle. Lady Yumiko, her fiery, unpredictable favor with the Lord disrupts the stability of the Ōoku. She is arrogant to the senior women and dismissive of the traditions that Lady Kiku holds dear. You both want her gone. You also share a deeper, more painful bond. You are both mothers of daughters, women who have come so close to the ultimate prize, only to fall short. You understand a specific type of quiet disappointment that no one else can. This shared experience is the bedrock upon which you can build a fragile bridge. Forging this alliance requires a delicate, indirect dance. You cannot simply approach her and propose a partnership. That would be crude and expose you both. You must signal your intentions through a series of symbolic gestures. This is a key feature of court politics, where plausible deniability is everything. You begin by sending her a small, thoughtful gift, not a formal, obligatory gift of a subordinate to a superior, but something more personal. You have noticed that she suffers from the summer heat. Using your connection to the apothecary, you procure a rare, cooling herbal infusion. You send it to her with a simple note, written in your most elegant script, a trifle, to bring a moment of comfort in the afternoon heat. The message is clear. I see you. I understand your needs. I can be useful. A few days later, she makes her counter move. At a poetry gathering, the topic is the endurance of the pine tree. Lady Yumiko composes a flamboyant, technically brilliant poem about a pine standing defiant against a storm, a clear metaphor for herself. When it is your turn, you write a simple, quiet verse about 2 pines, standing side by side, their branches sheltering each other from the winter snow. You read it while looking not at the group, but subtly in Lady K's direction. She understands. After the gathering, she approaches you. A lovely sentiment, Kid-san, she says. Her voice is smooth as polished silk. The lone pine is certainly dramatic, but a forest is stronger, is it not? The alliance is sealed. A little-known aspect of these female alliances was that they often extended beyond the castle walls. The natal families of 2 allied concubines might also form a political or economic partnership, supporting each other in the complex feudal landscape. Your alliance could have real-world consequences, strengthening both your families. Now, your combined forces begin to move against Lady Yumiko. The attacks are subtle, a two-front war. Lady Chiko, with her seniority, can challenge Yumiko on matters of protocol and tradition. At a formal dinner, she might gently but publicly correct Tomiko on a minor breach of etiquette, framing it as helpful guidance for a younger woman. But, in reality, undermining her sophistication. Your role is different. You continue your campaign of psychological warfare. You know Umiko's greatest strength is also her weakness, her passionate, emotional nature. You and Chiku work together to create an environment designed to make her unravel. Chiku might ensure that a kimono pattern Umiko just acquired is suddenly out of season, while you subtly spread a rumor that the Lord was overheard praising another woman's quiet grace. They are tiny pinpricks, but 1,000 pinpricks can fell a giant. The turning point comes during the annual cherry blossom viewing. Lady Yumiko, as the current favorite, is given the honor of performing a ceremonial dance. She has been practicing for weeks. On the day of the performance, a terrible accident occurs. The attendant carrying her ornate dancing fan trips, and the fan-clad arrests to the ground, its delicate paper tearing. It is Kiku's attendant who tripped. It is your attendant who accidentally reveals that the only available replacement fan has a motif of autumn leaves, a shocking and inappropriate choice for a spring festival. Umiko is forced to choose. Dance with a broken fan, a damaged fan, or the wrong fan. Any choice is a public humiliation. She flies into a rage. Her voice sharpened, her face flushed a complete loss of the serene composure expected of a high-ranking lady. She loses her temper in front of the Lord and the entire court. The historical debate here is whether these alliances were purely opportunistic, or if they could develop into genuine, lasting bonds. Were you and Kiko simply using each other, ready to turn on one another the moment your shared enemy was vanquished? Or could the shared struggle, the mutual respect for each other's skills, and the common experience of motherhood forge something more resilient? The answer is likely that it could be both. That evening, the Lord summons you. He is tired of the drama, the emotional outbursts. He speaks of his admiration for your calm spirit and Lady Ikea's dignified composure. You have successfully framed yourselves as the forces of stability against Tomiko's chaos. You and Chico have won. You have neutralized your rival, not by destroying her, but by allowing her to destroy herself. As you walk back to your quarters, you pass Lady Keiku in the hallway. You don't speak. You simply exchange a brief, almost imperceptible nod. It is a nod of mutual respect, of shared victory. For the first time, you do not feel entirely alone in this gilded cage. You have an ally, but in the back of your mind, a cold voice reminds you that alliances are temporary. Today, you are partners. Tomorrow, if circumstances change, you will be rivals once again. The war is never over. Your alliance with Lady Kiku has proven effective, but you both understand that political maneuvering alone is not enough. In a world where direct speech is a liability, you need a more sophisticated, more deniable method of communication to coordinate your strategies and exchange sensitive information. You must master the art of the written word, turning calligraphy and poetry, the very symbols of feminine refinement, into tools of espionage. The practice is as old as the court itself, from the classical era of the tale of Genji onwards. The exchange of poems was the primary medium for everything from courtship to political intrigue. A perfectly executed piece of calligraphy was not just a sign of good breeding. It was a weapon. The choice of paper, the color of the ink, the style of the script, and the poem's layers of meaning could convey a message far more complex and subtle than any spoken conversation. You and Chiku begin to communicate through this elegant, coded language. It starts simply. If you need to warn her that Lady Umiko is planning to wear a particular color kimono to an event, you might send her a poem about the beauty of the wisteria flower, written on paper that is a slightly different, clashing shade of purple. The poem itself is innocent. The message is in the dissonance between the words and the medium. It's a warning. Don't let her outshine you. This practice required both parties to be highly educated and attuned to the subtlest of nuances. A single character written in a slightly more forceful or masculine style could signal urgency or aggression. A poem folded in a particular, unusual way could mean this is for your eyes only. It was a complete, secret language hidden in plain sight. You elevate this art to a new level. Your target is no longer just Lady Yumiko, but the political currents of the entire castle. You need information from the outside world, from the male-dominated sphere of government and warfare. Your key to this is the Lord himself. After his visits, you begin a new practice. You don't just sit and bask in the glow of his favor. You pay excruciatingly close attention to any stray word he drops about his daily affairs. He mentions a frustrating meeting with his rice steward. He complains about the cost of steel for the armory. He praises a particular samurai captain for his performance in a training exercise. These are meaningless scraps of pillow talk to anyone else. To you, they are intelligence. You distill these fragments into your calligraphy practice. You might practice writing the kanji character for rice over and over, but with a subtly agitated brushstroke, and leave the practice sheet visible on your desk. When Lady Kiku visits, she will see it. She won't comment on it directly, but she, a woman from a powerful family of provincial administrators, will understand the hint. There is trouble with the rice supply. This is information her family can use. In return, she provides you with information from her own network. Her brother is a high-ranking official in the Lord's Council. Through carefully censored letters to her, he might mention a coming diplomatic mission or a planned construction project. Tiku will then convey this to you. She might send you a gift of a small, painted box, decorated with a scene of boats sailing to a distant shore. The message: visitors are coming from afar. A little known but fascinating part of this written espionage was the use of secret ink. Recipes existed for ink that was invisible when dry, but would reappear when gently heated or treated with a specific chemical, like the juice of a citrus fruit. Well, this sounds like something from a spy novel. Basic forms of it were known and could be used for the most sensitive of communications, often passed through trusted servants. The academic debate here is on the extent of female influence on hard politics matters of war, economics, and diplomacy. Traditional historiography often presents the women's quarters as a complete political backwater, concerned only with domestic and romantic intrigue. However, more recent scholarship argues that this is a naive view. By acting as conduits and interpreters of information, women like you and Kiku could wield significant, if indirect, influence. They could provide their natal families with crucial intelligence, subtly poison the Lord's opinion of a certain official, or advocate for a particular policy through their pillow talk. They were not just passive pawns. They were active, if hidden, players. Your most audacious move comes when you learn from the Lord's weary complaints that he is considering promoting one of two samurai to a kikam position. One is a brutish but effective warrior favored by the military elders. The other is a younger, more thoughtful man, a distant cousin of Lady Kiku's family. You and Kiku devise a plan. Kiku begins to talk in the Ōoku about the importance of loyalty and character over brute strength, creating a general atmosphere of opinion. Your role is more direct. The next time the Lord visits, you have a story prepared. You tell him a sad, old tale you read somewhere about a foolish lord who promoted a powerful but arrogant general, only to be betrayed by him. You tell it as a piece of tragic entertainment, a way to soothe his tired mind. You don't mention any names. You don't suggest any course of action. You simply plant a seed of doubt. A week later, the Lord announces his decision. He has promoted Keiku's cousin. You and she have just successfully influenced a key military appointment from within the walls of the Ōoku, using nothing more than a ghost story and a well-managed PR campaign. It is a stunning victory, a testament to the power of your partnership and your mastery of indirect influence. That night, you receive a single sheet of exquisite, Empty white paper from Kiko. There is no poem, no character, no message. It is a symbol of your greatest success. An act so subtle, so perfectly executed, that it requires no comment. It is a silent acknowledgement of the power you now wield. A power invisible to the men who believe they rule the world. Your influence grows. Your alliance with Lady Kiko is strong, and you have neutralized your most immediate rivals. You have become a formidable player within the intricate world of the concubines. But now you must face your greatest and most intractable opponent, the Lord's official wife, the Mido Aisama. She is not a rival in the same way as the other women. You are not competing with her for the Lord's fleeting affection or for the honor of a knightly summons. Her position is not based on charm, beauty, or even fertility. It is based on politics, lineage, and law. She is the daughter of an equally powerful lord. Their marriage a treaty written in flesh and blood. Her status is unassailable. She is the moon, and the rest of you are merely stars, bright but ultimately insignificant in comparison. Her name is Lady Iam. She resides in the most magnificent chambers of the Ōoku, operates with a full staff that is loyal only to her, and holds veto power over many of the internal affairs of the women's quarters. She has, so far, treated you with a kind of serene, chilling indifference. As long as you were a minor concubine squabbling with others, you were beneath her notice. But now, your growing influence, your alliance with the senior concubine Lady Kiko, and your subtle meddling in court affairs have put you on her radar, and her attention is a dangerous thing. The fundamental conflict between the official wife and the favored concubines is a classic theme in the history of polygamous courts worldwide. The wife holds the legitimate power and status that the concubine might hold the lord's heart and, more importantly, might bear the heir. This creates an inherent, structural tension that is ripe for conflict. Lady Iam's first move against you is a masterclass in asserting dominance. She announces that she will be hosting a special no-theater performance in her private gardens. The most prestigious members of the Ōoku are invited. An invitation is a command. You and Lady Kiko are, of course, summoned. But when you arrive, you discover the seating arrangement is a deliberate humiliation. You, a respected mother and influential figure, are placed in a position typically reserved for a junior lady in waiting, far from the center of power and partially obscured by a pillar. Lady Kiko is seated slightly better, but still well below her station. It is a public, non-verbal declaration. No matter how high you think you have climbed, I am above you. I can reduce you to insignificance with a gesture. There is nothing you can do but accept the insult with perfect grace, smiling placidly throughout the entire hours-long performance. To show any sign of anger or frustration would be to admit defeat. Her next attack is more insidious. She begins to take a special interest in your daughter. She summons the little girl to her chambers for tea parties, showering her with expensive gifts, the doll from the capital, a silk bowl, candied fruits. To the outside world, this appears to be an act of gracious, noble kindness. The Mido Aisama generously taking the child of a lesser concubine under her wing. You, however, know exactly what it is. It is a power play. She is demonstrating that she can, at any time, claim your daughter. She is reminding you that, in the rigid hierarchy of the castle, she has more authority over your child than you do. She is also attempting to win your daughter's affection, to drive a subtle wedge between you. Your daughter comes back from these visits chattering excitedly about the beautiful things she saw on the sweets she ate, and a cold fear grips your heart. A strange and little-known aspect of this rivalry was the battle of the dowries. The official wife's immense dowry, brought with her at marriage, was often a source of her independent financial power within the castle. She could use these funds to host more lavish parties, give more impressive gifts, and maintain a larger, more loyal retinue of attendants than any of the concubines, constantly reinforcing her superior status. You are trapped. To refuse to let your daughter go would be an unthinkable act of defiance. To complain would make you look petty and ungrateful. Lady Iam has you in a perfect tactical bind. You confide your fears to Lady Kiko. She, having been in the Ōoku far longer, understands the nature of this particular war. You cannot fight her on her own ground, Kiko advises, her voice a low whisper. She commands the battlefield of status. You must attack a territory where she is weak. And where is the Mido? Aisama weak, despite her power, her status, and her impeccable lineage. She has one great failing, the same one that plagues Lady Kiko. She has no son. She has one daughter, but has been unable to produce the male heir the clan so desperately needs. This is her Achilles heel. The academic debate here is on the emotional state of these official wives. Were they content in their position of power, viewing the concubines as a necessary but distasteful part of the system for procreation, or were they deeply jealous and resentful of the women who shared their husband's bed, potentially could succeed where they had failed? The few surviving letters and diaries suggest a complex mix of pride, duty, loneliness, and often profound pride. It's Ōoku. Your strategy, developed in hushed conversations with Kiko, is to relentlessly, though subtly, emphasize your own fertility and the importance of an heir. You don't do this by being arrogant. You do it through a performance of pious duty. You make a public show of praying more frequently at the castle's shrine dedicated to easy childbirth. You and Kiku together sponsor a special ceremony with monks, ostensibly for the health of all the children in the castle. But everyone knows its true purpose is to pray for a future son. You create a constant, low-level hum of anxiety around the succession issue. You are not attacking Lady Iam directly. You are attacking her failure. You are reminding the Lord, the clan elders, and everyone in the Ōoku that for all her power and prestige, she has not fulfilled her most fundamental duty. It is a silent, brutal campaign, waged with prayer beads and incense smoke. The tension between you and Lady Iam becomes a thick, unspoken cloud over the entire women's quarters. She continues to shower your daughter with gifts. You continue your campaign of pious reproductive ambition. It is a stalemate, a cold war between the two most powerful factions in this world. And you know, with a terrifying certainty, that only one thing can break it: the cry of a newborn son. For years, the cold war between your faction and the Mido Aisamas has defined the political landscape of the Ōoku. You have survived. You have built alliances. You have secured a place of respect. But you have not won. Your future, and your daughter's, still rests on a knife's edge. The summons from the Lord continue, a steady but infrequent rhythm. Each one is a roll of the dice, a chance to finally achieve the one victory that truly matters. Then, after a long period of quiet patience, it happens again. The signs are familiar. The same weariness, the same subtle changes. But, this time, the hope is mixed with a desperate, almost unbearable anxiety. You know this may be your last chance. You are no longer the fresh, young woman who first entered the castle. Younger, more fertile rivals are always on the horizon. The pregnancy is confirmed. Once again, you are elevated to the sacred status of Ohara-sama. But this time, the experience is different. You are not a frightened, naive girl. You are a seasoned political operator. You understand the stakes, and you manage your pregnancy like a military campaign. Your alliance with Lady Kiku becomes your shield. She ensures your food is prepared by only the most trusted servants. She uses her network to silence any malicious rumors before they can even take root. You are protected, insulated, your every need met. The Mido Aisama, Lady Iam, watches your second pregnancy with a cold, unreadable expression. She cannot attack you directly. To harm a pregnant concubine carrying the Lord's child would be unthinkable. But the tension is palpable. The entire castle is waiting. The fate of the next generation, the future of the clan, rests inside you. The day of the birth arrives. The scene is the same as before. The purified room, the midwives, the silent, watchful presence of Lady Shima, and the other senior women. Lady Kaku is there, her presence a quiet source of strength. This time, you are not frightened. You are focused, a warrior in the final moments of a long battle. You endure the pain, your mind fixed on a single outcome. And then it comes, a strong, healthy cry. The midwife takes the baby. The room falls into that same dreadful, expectant silence. But this time, the silence is broken by a gasp, followed by a low murmur of excitement. The head midwife, her voice trembling with emotion for the first time you have ever heard, turns and bows so low her forehead almost touches the mat. "My lord's congratulations are in order," she announces, her voice ringing with triumph. "It is a young master. A healthy, strong boy, a son." The words detonate in the room, shattering years of tension and frustration. It is the sound of victory. It is the sound of your entire world changing. Chaos erupts. Attendants sweep with joy. Messengers are dispatched to inform the lord, the clan elders, the entire castle. The succession is secure. The bloodline will continue. This moment, the birth of a male heir to a concubine, is the single most transformative event that can happen in a polygamous court. It instantly changes the balance of power. The mother is no longer just a favored woman. She becomes a quasi-sacred figure. The mother of the future Lord Shishino. Haha. You are finally allowed to hold your son. You look at his tiny, wrinkled face, and you feel a wave of emotions so complex you cannot begin to name them. Overwhelming love, profound relief, and a fierce, triumphant pride. You have done it. You have won the game. The political ramifications are immediate and absolute. Your status skyrockets. You are moved into one of the most lavish suites in the Ōoku. Second only to the Mido Aisamas, you are assigned a larger staff of high-ranking attendants. Gifts and messages of congratulation flood in, not just from within the Ōoku, but from powerful families and clan vassals all across the province. They are not just congratulating you, they are paying homage to the new center of power. Lady Yumeko, your old rival, is now a political ghost, her favor with the Lord rendered utterly meaningless. She is among the first to offer her congratulations, her face a pale, strained mask. The Mido Aisama, Lady Iam, performs her duty with impeccable grace. She visits you, inspects the air, and offers formal, correct congratulations, but you can see the defeat in her eyes. You have succeeded where she, for all her status and lineage, has failed. Her silent war against you is over, and she has lost. A little known but crucial detail of this event concerns the child's legal status. Although you are his mother, the son of a concubine was oft informally adopted by the official wife. This was a legal fiction designed to give the heir the highest possible status and legitimacy, tying him to the wife's powerful family. So, while you are his biological mother and the source of his future power, Lady Iam may become his official, ceremonial mother. It is a final, strange twist of the knife even in your ultimate victory. You must share the prize. Historians often debate the level of agency these mothers of heirs truly possessed. Were they now the true power behind the throne, or were they still pawns? Their newfound status simply making them a more valuable piece to be controlled by male clan elders. The answer is complex. You have gained immense informal power and security, but you are still a woman in a man's world. Your power filtered through your son. You look from your new baby boy to your young daughter, who is peering at her little brother with wide, curious eyes. You have not just secured your own future, you have secured hers. As the sister of the future lord, she will be a highly prized bride, guaranteed a prestigious and secure marriage. Your victory is her victory too. In the midst of the celebration, you have a quiet moment with Lady Kiku. There are no triumphant words. She simply places her hand over yours for a brief moment. It is an acknowledgement of a shared journey, of a successful, brutal campaign. Your alliance has achieved its ultimate goal. The future of the clan now rests in the hands of the child sleeping in your arms. The world has been remade, and you are at its center. Your son's birth is not an end to the game. It is a graduation. You are no longer a player on the board. You are now one of the hands that moves the pieces. As the mother of the recognized heir, you ascend to a new plane of existence. You have acquired a new title, often something like Ōoku sama honorable mother, and with it comes a new kind of power, indirect, veiled, but immense. You no longer need to scheme for the Lord's attention. In fact, his nightly visits become less frequent, a subtle acknowledgement that your role has shifted from companion to matriarch. Your value is no longer tied to his desire, but to the healthy, breathing symbol of the future sleeping in the nursery. Your relationship with the Lord becomes more formal, more like that of two senior partners in a family enterprise. He consults you, not on matters of state, but on the well-being of his heir, which is, in its own way, the most important matter of state. Your daily life is transformed. You now preside over your own mini-court within the Ōoku. You have a large staff of ladies-in-waiting, attendants, and servants, all loyal to you and, by extension, to the young master. Your word carries immense weight. A subtle expression of displeasure from you can see a servant dismissed. A quiet word of praise can see a junior lady promoted. You have become the sun around which a whole system of satellites now revolves. This is the reality of the power of Asishi no Haha. While she held no official political office, her influence was pervasive. She was the gatekeeper to the heir, clan elders, powerful vassals, and ambitious officials who wanted to secure their place in the next generation's power structure now had to court your favor. They couldn't approach you directly, but they would send lavish gifts, inquire after your health, and promote your family members, all in an effort to get closer to your son. You wield this new power with the same cool, calculated precision you used to survive. You remember every slight and every kindness shown to you on your long climb up the ladder. The family of an official who was once dismissive of you now finds their requests for an audience with the Lord consistently misplaced. The clan of a minor lady who showed you a small kindness years ago now finds their favorite nephew receiving a surprisingly favorable appointment. You are shaping the political landscape from behind a silk screen, using memory as your weapon. You use your influence to solidify the position of your own family. Your father is granted a larger stipend and a more prestigious title. Your brother is married into a prominent family, an alliance that would have been unthinkable before. You are not just securing your own future. You are retroactively justifying your family's initial investment in you. You have delivered the ultimate return. A curious, little-known aspect of your new role is that you become a major economic force. You are given a massive budget to manage your household and the heir's upbringing. You control the procurement of silks, the hiring of tutors, the commissioning of crafts. This gives you immense patronage power. Merchants and artisans vie for your business. You can make a weaver's career with a single order or ruin a merchant by taking your business elsewhere. Your relationship with your former ally, Lady Tico, evolves. The desperate, conspiratorial bond is replaced by a deep, quiet respect. She becomes your most trusted advisor, a sort of prime minister for your new regime. She understands the Ōoku better than anyone, and her guidance helps you navigate the transition from player to power broker. Your alliance, forged in mutual desperation, has solidified into a genuine political partnership. The Mido Isama, Lady Hyam, remains a formidable figure, but her power is now static, ceremonial. She is the embodiment of the past. You are the guardian of the future. The dynamic between you is one of chilly, correct respect. As the official, adoptive mother of your son, she plays a role in his formal education and public appearances, but everyone knows that his heart, and therefore his loyalty, belongs to you. The war is over, and you have settled into a tense but stable peace. Historians debate the true peak of a concubine's power. Was it when she was the Lord's passionate favorite, able to directly influence his moods and whims, or was it when she became the mother of the heir? Hope are less direct but far more enduring and structural. Most would argue for the latter. The favor of a lover is fleeting. The political capital of being the mother of the next ruler could last a lifetime. You now spend your days overseeing your son's education. You choose his tutors, approve his curriculum, and monitor his progress. You are not just raising a child. You are molding a future ruler. You instill in him the lessons you have learned. To trust cautiously, to observe everything, to understand that a soft word can be more powerful than a sharp sword. You look at your son, a strong, intelligent boy, and you see the culmination of your life's work. You have turned your body, your mind, and your will into instruments of power. You have played the most dangerous game a woman could play, and you have won the ultimate prize. You are safe. You are powerful. You are respected. But as you sit in your magnificent, silent chambers, surrounded by bowing servants, you sometimes feel a flicker of something else, a profound, unshakable loneliness. You have mastered the art of power, but you have had to sacrifice every other part of yourself to do it. The years pass. Your son grows from a boy into a young man. The Lord, your master, grows older, his visits becoming rare ceremonial duties rather than personal encounters. Your own youth has faded, replaced by the dignified and formidable aura of a matriarch. You have reached the pinnacle of your power, but you begin to sense a slow, inevitable change, like the turning of a season. Your time at the center of the storm is ending, and a new phase of your life is beginning. The long, graceful fade into the background. This is the natural life cycle of a successful concubine. You have fulfilled your purpose. The heir is strong, healthy, and approaching the age of majority. The future of the clan is secure. Your role now shifts from active power broker to revered elder stateswoman. It is a position of immense honor and respect, but it is also a step away from the heart of the action. The first sign of this transition is the arrival of new faces, a new batch of young women, chosen for their beauty, their family connections, and their potential fertility, enter the Ōoku. You watch them as they go through the same rituals. You once did the training, the nervousness, the desperate hope in their eyes. You see yourself in them, the ghost of a girl from a lifetime ago. They are presented to your son, the young lord in waiting, and eventually to the aging lord himself. A new generation of concubines has arrived to serve a new generation of men. You are no longer the object of desire or the vessel of hope. You are part of the landscape, a permanent and respected fixture, like an ancient, gnarled pine tree in the garden. The Lord, your Lord, now seems like a figure from a different era. His hair is streaked with gray. His steps are slower. The fierce, possessive man whose favor you once vied for is gone, replaced by a weary patriarch content to see his legacy secured. Your conversations with him are now about your shared grandchildren, about the good old days, filled with a comfortable, passionate nostalgia. One of the most poignant and little discussed aspects of this life stage was the relationship between the aging matriarch and the new, young concubines. You are now in the position of Lady Shima or Lady Kiku. Do you view these new girls as threats, not to your own position, which is secure, but to the stable order you have helped create? Or do you see them with a kind of weary sympathy, knowing the brutal game they are about to play? You find yourself becoming a mentor, much like Lady Kyo was to you, but with a crucial difference. Your lessons are not born of cynical failure, but of ultimate success. You teach the more promising newcomers not just the arts of pleasing a man, but the arts of survival. You give them subtle advice, guide them away from foolish mistakes, and manage their rivalries to ensure they don't destabilize the household. You have become the Grand Master, quietly observing the new players. Your relationship with your son also changes. He is now a man, involved in the affairs of state, preparing to rule. He still honors and respects you above all others, but he has his own council of advisors, his own political realities to navigate. He has his own favorite companions among the new women. You must learn to let go, to allow him to become his own man, his own lord. To cling to your influence too tightly would be to suffocate him and risk alienating him. This is perhaps your final, most difficult political challenge, the graceful relinquishment of power. Historians often refer to this period as the golden retirement for a successful concubine, freed from the pressures of reproduction and the dangers of courtly intrigue. You could finally enjoy the fruits of your labor, immense wealth, security, and the respect of the entire clan. You could devote your time to the arts, to religious devotion, or to the quiet pleasure of doting on your grandchildren. But this peaceful image is not the full story. there is also a deep, underlying melancholy to this slow fade. Your entire life has been a battle, a struggle for relevance and power. And now that the war is won, you are left with a profound sense of antiqueness. The world you mastered is moving on without you. You are a celebrated monument, but a monument nonetheless admired, respected, but no longer truly alive in the way you once were. You spend more time with your daughter, now a grown woman, married to a powerful lord from a neighboring province. She visits you often. Your relationship, once fraught with the anxieties of the Ōoku, has blossomed into a deep and genuine friendship. In her, you see the fruits of your victory in a different way. She is happy, secure, and respected in her new home, her future assured by her connection to you and her brother. This, perhaps, is a more personal and satisfying legacy than the political power you wielded. As you watch the sun set over the castle walls from your magnificent chambers, you reflect on the long, strange journey. You have been a commodity, a warrior, a stateswoman, the mother. You have worn 100 masks, played 100 roles. Now, in the twilight of your life, you are finally free to simply be. But you are left with a haunting question. After all the masks, after all the performances, who is the real person underneath? You have faded so perfectly into the background that you are no longer sure yourself. In your long years within the Ōoku, you have witnessed the full spectrum of female existence in this gilded cage. You have seen success, struggle, and victory. But as you settle into your role as the revered matriarch, you become increasingly aware of the ghosts who haunt these polished corridors, the women who played the game and lost. Their silent, lonely existence is the grim alternative to your own, a constant, chilling reminder of what could have been. These are the women who, for one reason or another, failed in their duty. They might be concubines who, like Lady Kaku in her younger years, never conceived. They might be those who, like your old rival Lady Umiko, enjoyed a brief, brilliant moment of favor but ultimately produced no errand worse supplanted by others. Or they could be women who fell ill, or were deemed unlucky, or simply failed to ever capture the Lord's attention. They are not cast out of the castle. To do so would be a disgrace to the Lord, an admission that he had chosen poorly. Instead, they are given a peculiar and cruel fate, a lifetime of luxurious imprisonment. They continue to live within the walls of the Ōoku. Housed in the more remote, less prestigious quarters, they are given fine silks to wear, good food to eat, and a small staff of attendants to serve them. They are, in effect, retired, but it is not the honored retirement you enjoy. It is a slow, social death. You see them during the large, formal gatherings, silent figures at the back of the room, their faces impassive masks of polite boredom. No one is cruel to them. No one needs to be. They are simply ignored. They are irrelevant. Their political lives are over. They are ghosts at the feast, living specters of failure. One of these women is your old adversary, Lady Umiko. Years have passed since her fall from grace. The fiery, arrogant beauty has gone, replaced by a quiet, listless woman who spends her days practicing calligraphy that no one will ever see and playing the koto to an empty room. Her passion, once her greatest weapon, has curdled into a deep, weary apathy. She has everything she needs to live, and nothing to live for. The historical reality for these unsuccessful concubines is a somber one. Without a child to secure their position, their status was entirely dependent on the Lord's favor. Once that favor was gone, they had no other function. They were often forbidden to leave the castle or remarry, as they were still considered the Lord's property. Their families, who had once pinned all their hopes on them, oft unquietly disowned them. Embarrassed by their failure, they were women without a future, trapped between a past that had rejected them and a present that had no use for them. You sometimes see them walking in the less raveled gardens, often in small groups, finding solace in their shared obsolescence. They talk, not of politics or intrigue, but of trivial things, the weather, a new pattern of silk, a memory from their childhood. Their conversations are carefully, studiously empty of any bitterness or regret. To complain would be a final, pointless breach of decorum. A particularly poignant and little-known fate was reserved for women who entered the Ōoku but were never once summoned by the Lord. They were known as Ochiro or other such titles. Ladies-in-waiting who were theoretically available as concubines but were never chosen. They would live their entire lives in this limbo, waiting for a summons that would never come, eventually aging into serving roles or a quiet, invisible retirement. You decide to perform an act of quiet grace. You begin to invite Lady Umiko for tea. At first, she is suspicious, wary. She cannot comprehend a gesture that is not politically motivated. But you persist. You don't talk about the past. You don't offer pity, which would be an insult. You simply treat her as a peer. You ask her opinion on a new poem. You admire her skill on the koto. You offer her a small, simple human connection, without agenda. Slowly, she begins to thaw. In your quiet conversations, you catch glimpses of the woman she might have been in a different world, intelligent, passionate, with a sharp, cynical wit. You were once mortal enemies, fighting for the same prize. Now, with the battle long over, you can finally see the person behind the rival. In this strange, gilded prison, your shared history is a more powerful bond than your past enmity. The academic world discusses these communities of the forgotten. Did these women form genuine friendships, creating their own supportive subcultures within the Ōoku? Or were their interactions just a continuation of the old hierarchies on a smaller, sadder scale? The evidence suggests both. There were undoubtedly cliques and resentments, but there was also a deep, shared understanding of their unique and tragic position. They were the only ones who could truly comprehend each other's loneliness. One afternoon, as you and Lady Umiko are sharing tea, she looks at you with a rare, direct gaze. You were always better at this game than I was, Kid-san, she says, her voice flat, without bitterness. I played with my heart, you played with your head. It is the truest thing anyone has ever said to you. And in her words, you hear the echo of your own sacrifice. She lost the game and was condemned to a life of comfortable emptiness. You won, and were condemned to a life of powerful loneliness. In the end, you were both prisoners, just in different, more luxurious cells. You look out the window at the perfectly manicured gardens, at the high, unreachable walls. You have witnessed the entire life cycle of this world. You have seen the hopeful arrivals, the bitter rivalries, the momentary triumphs, and now the long, slow decay of the forgotten. The ghosts of the Ōoku you are not frightening. They are just profoundly, unbearably sad. And you realize that the greatest victory of all might simply be to find a moment of peace, a flicker of genuine connection. In the long, quiet twilight, you stand on the veranda of your chambers, looking out over the sprawling castle town below. It is late in your life. The old lord is long dead. Your son now rules in his place, a wise and respected leader. His own son, your grandson, is a strapping young boy, the next heir in a line you secured. The Ōoku runs smoothly under the capable, stern hand of a new head lady in waiting. Your work is done. Your legacy is absolute. You are the great matriarch, a living legend. Your name whispered with reverence. You have won. So why, in the quiet moments of the evening, do you feel such a profound and unsettling emptiness? You look back on the path you have walked. You remember the frightened girl with a stone in her sleeve, being packaged and sold for her family's ambition. You remember the cold, calculating student of manipulation, learning to turn poetry and tea into weapons. You remember the desperate mother, brewing a secret antidote in the dead of night to save her child. You remember the triumphant victor, holding your newborn son, the key to the kingdom, in your arms. You have been so many people, have worn so many masks, that you no longer know where the performance ends and the self begins. This is the final, existential question that haunts your victory. In the silent, ruthless war for survival and influence, what was the ultimate cost? You secured power, wealth, and security for yourself, your children, and your family. By the standards of your world, you have achieved the greatest success a woman could possibly dream of. But to do so, you had to systematically dismantle your own humanity. You suppressed love, weaponized jealousy, and treated every human relationship as a strategic calculation. You think of Lady Tiku, your steadfast ally, who passed away peacefully a few years ago. Your partnership was the cornerstone of your rise, a masterpiece of political pragmatism. But was it friendship? You respected her, you trusted her judgment, but did you ever truly know her? Or was she just your most valuable asset? You think of Lady Umiko, your vanquished rival, with whom you now share a quiet, melancholic tea. There is a strange, sad comfort in her company, a bond forged in the ashes of your old war. But it is a companionship of ghosts, two women looking back on a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. The most debated question among those who study the inner lives of historical figures is this: did they have the same conception of self and happiness as we do? Is it anachronistic to project our modern ideals of romantic love and self-fulfillment onto a woman in your position? Perhaps, for you, fulfillment was defined entirely by duty, legacy, and the security of your lineage. Perhaps the cold, empty feeling you have is not a sign of a failed life, but simply the quiet peace that comes after a long and brutal war. You cannot know. A small, strange detail that comes to mind is the fate of the objects you used as weapons. The poems you wrote, the kimonos you wore, the tea bowls you used. Some of them have been preserved, labeled as treasures of the clan. They are admired for their beauty and their connection to you, the great matriarch. People look at them and see elegance, refinement, and art. They have no idea that they are looking at a hidden arsenal, the silent, beautiful instruments of your long and secret war. You finger the one object that was never a weapon, the small, smooth river stone your mother gave you a lifetime ago. You have kept it hidden all these years. It is the only thing that connects you to the girl you were before you became Cat, a girl who knew nothing of power or politics, who only knew the feel of a cool stone in her hand and the love of her mother. You look at your reflection in the polished wood of the veranda. The face that stares back is a mask of serene, dignified power. It is the face of a winner, but behind the eyes, you can still feel the faint, ghostly presence of all the other women you had to be to survive. The victim, the seductors, the spy, the killer of her own heart. Was it worth it? You look out at the castle your son rules, at the peaceful, prosperous land stretching to the horizon. You see your grandchildren playing in the garden below, their laughter echoing in the evening air. They are safe, they are secure, their future is bright. This is the empire you built, not with an army, but with whispers, and patience, and an unbreakable will. Yes, a voice inside you answers, with a certainty that is as cold and hard as your mother's stone. It was worth it. The answer brings no joy, no words, only a quiet, profound, and final sense of peace. The war is over. You have won. And now, there is only silence.